it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my skin takes me back to the time met you on a Friday, halfway out at the door of the club, playing soul on the weekends. Stayed in bed till Wednesday. Fell in love with you right there and then. I was young, couldn't see that. Leather jacket, though it's too cold. Saw your face in the crowd, and I think without eyes, her just perfect. Yeah, she's beautiful. Never thought you'd be here. It took me by surprise when I met you in the doorway. And a friend of a friend. Never thought I would see you this soon, but hope she really loves you. 'Cause I swear you deserve everything. Wish that I knew that sooner. We got sober, it was over, but I told you I'd do it all over again. At your place over spring break, a heartache. I'd do it all over again. Do it all over Tell me a lie, and I tell you too. I say that I'm happy for the two of you. You wanna be friends, but I don't think I can. But I wanna be happy, happy for
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Badass University All Stars League. I am Jerry the Music Man. I'm joined by the wonderful Tudor Anea, and we have a brilliant couple of games for you today, too, instead of the usual. Well, this is how it works at BUAL. We have a play day where we have one set of games and it's 3, and then another set of games and it's 2 of them, just because there's, 10 teams in the league. That's how it works out. We're in our 3rd week so far. So the table is starting to kind of take shape, and today there could be some upsets or there could be some whitewashes. That's how we're looking at it. Tudors, how are you doing, and what are your thoughts for today?
I've got to say that, well, first things first, I'm doing absolutely fantabulous. I hope you're able to actually match that exact same kind of energy.
I'm fantabulous as well,
into this, exactly. But moving into this particular playdate, we've got a couple of really interesting matches lined up, to say the very least. We've got the Minutemen, they're going to be going up against Team Trident, and then we've also got Chimp Hunters that are going up against the Froggers later this evening. So that is essentially the schedule for tonight. And obviously we were just about to touch on this, but the main reason why this first particular matchup is relatively sketchy. And unfortunately enough, the pessimist inside of me is going to just absolutely erupt for the time being. The Minutemen, they are currently sat at the very bottom of the barrel in terms of overall standings. And if I'm not mistaken, from the 2 play days that we have seen them perform thus far, they have, only 3 rounds to their name, sat at a round differential of -11. And they're going up against Team Trident, who is currently placed 3rd. So this, as you said, is most likely going to be a whitewash.
That is correct, and like you said, Team Triton actually plays 2nd at the moment, although, second, 3rd kind of joint. Minutemen are 9th, but only by virtue of the fact that Sniper Monkeys have almost just as bad a record of them, having lost all their games as well. And like you said, the Minutemen really having only gathered 3 rounds so far this season across 2 games, so it's a bit early doors to say that
still early days.
Yeah, it's still early days, but. This is a mismatch in theory, on paper, right? We're yet to see how they do, but Team Triton, we know they've proven themselves. They come through the previous season having done rather well, and they look to be carrying that momentum forward. They are one of 2 teams so far in the season that still have a perfect record. The other team is Chimp Hunters, who we're going to be seeing later as well. So similar situation there, although the Froggers have at least managed to gather a point so far this season. The reason they've got a point is because we have this wonderful 3-2-1-0 scoring system, which is beginning to gain a lot of popularity, especially with its use in EUL, whereby you gain 3 points for a win in regulation, 0 points for a loss in regulation, but if you make it to overtime, you're guaranteed a point, and then you gain an extra 1 for winning it in OT. So 2 points for an OT win and 1 for an OT loss. And it's good. It adds a little bit more nuance to the sort of best of 1 10-team round-robin format.
Yeah, definitely so. It also makes things just a tad bit more interesting. We don't necessarily have to actually, end things off rather anticlimactically anymore with a simple draw 6-6 scoreline. Then you've got that awful screen at the end of the game which doesn't showcase any of the operators. And if elites were definitely allowed, we could see a couple of really fancy animations. But yeah, I'm definitely a massive overall fan of the system, the 2-1 overtime system, and it definitely does actually force the best out of teams in all aspects, technically speaking, for them to really push themselves to the limit to see if they can nab themselves 2 points out of a maximum of 3, so they can at least walk away from a particular playdate with something in general.
Yep, that's the way it works, and I mean, it's a good way to do things. I think it makes it just a little bit more spicy overall in the long run. We're going to have a look at our rosters now, as we see we've got Minutemen and Team Triton lining up against each other. These are the 2 sides, the names, the heroes of the day that we're hoping to deliver us a show. So on the side of Minutemen, you've got Age of Soul, and then Dumfries, Kieran, NJ Source, and Rurid J, all hailing from Caledonian and Glasgow Caledonian University. So a big kind of Scottish uni contingent there, which is interesting. And then Triton a lot more spread across the country. So Replay, Octagon, Sardine, Matums, and Major all hailing from different unis. So a good mix there. And it's one of these things that there's I say a majority of sides in the league have this kind of free-form mix where they only have like 1 or 2 players maybe from the same, or 2 or 3 players maybe from the same uni. Minutemen are in the minority here by having a huge kind of contingent, and that can work both for and against them. So far, they're not quite gelling as much as they maybe would have hoped.
Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate that that's the way that it has played out, and obviously given the fact that they are all hailing, or the vast majority of them, 4 out of 5, are hailing from the same university, you would think that they would have had a lot of time to sort of build up all of that chemistry before the season had started. But once again, they are one of the newest rosters, despite the fact that we are actually seeing a couple of returning names from season 1. There are still a couple of mix-ups, and as you said, it's probably taking them just a tad bit longer than we anticipated for them to gel properly. But once again, those 2 play days that we saw earlier over the last 2 weeks, they have to a certain extent just really served as a couple of really, really valuable lessons for the side of the Minutemen as to, what exactly has been going wrong, how can we iron out all the crinkles, and then move further into the season completely fresh-faced and hopefully bring a tad bit of innovation to the table. Now, let's shift gears for a hot second right over here and take a look over at Team Triton. We've got Replay, Octagon, Sardine, Matums, and I'm going to assume that's Magier. I'm really, really bad with pronunciations. For a hot second, I was thinking, Spanish, it might be Majere, but that probably isn't it.
It might not be. I think when I was casting before, we went with a sort of a soft J, a Magier kind of thing. It sounded really classy, and I feel like
it does.
He's probably a man of class, so I'm going to stick with that.
Magier playing in Badass University All Stars.
Oui, oui.
Let's go.
Oh, monsieur. Okay. Sorry, I try and be sophisticated, and that apparently comes out as just random French words.
And it backfired,
yeah,
but it was hilarious to say the least.
All right. Well, we're back to our faces now, and what is there to talk about? These teams so far, they've had very, very differing seasons, like we've said. Going back to the Minutemen, they've played so far on Oregon and on Cafe, and like we've seen, only amassed 3 rounds across those maps. So maybe they'll be looking to try somewhere different, or perhaps they've shored up some of their weaknesses on those maps and have that valuable VOD review to go back there. But we'll see when we get to the map ban phase. On the other side of things, Triton, they've played Cafe and they've played Clubhouse, and they've come out on top on both. So a very limited kind of sample size to go by, so we really can't read into that too much. But those are fairly standard maps. I wouldn't be expecting to see, given that both of those teams would have been involved in those map ban phases, obviously, I wouldn't expect to see Coastline or even like a Chalet come out. I think we're going to be fairly bread and butter when it comes to it. So we're going to have a look at those map ban phases, that map ban phase. And Toodles, maybe you want to talk us through what we're seeing here.
Indeed. So obviously, because of the implementation of autoban, that technically means that the maps that were played last week for these 2 squads are going to be automatically just swiped clean off of the map veto for this evening. So Cafe and Clubhouse, nobody's allowed to touch them, at least between these 2 squads. Now the next set of map bans are going to be coming out. We've actually got Coastline and Oregon being banned as well, which is relatively interesting to see that none of these 2 squads decided to visit Oregon. I mean, it was the last standing member of the tier 4 trifecta of maps, but they won't be seeing the light of day regardless. Now, moving swiftly along, we've got Consulate and Chalet, the last 2 C's of our 7 maps. Unfortunately, we won't see play either, which is a bit disappointing because, well, I always love myself a good Consulate or Chalet match, given the fact that I've only actually casted Chalet once since it was brought into the competitive map pool. But regardless, this is going to be a really, really spicy best-of-1 series because, as Whippet would always tout it, we are moving along swiftly to the rolling hills of Tuscany. Villa is going to be our war zone of choice.
And this is where I can sound really sophisticated for once. We've got wine in the hills of Tuscany. Lovely, lovely wine, and that matches my beautiful French attempts earlier, but obviously this is Italian. Anyway, just reading a bit deeper into this map ban phase, Triton opting to ban out Oregon is probably the power play in this entire phase, right? They see that Minutemen were happy to go there on the first play day, and if Cafe and Club are already auto-banned, getting rid of Oregon means you're guaranteed like some, slightly less well-played map. And I think leaving Consulate, Chalet, Villa for Minutemen to choose from, I doubt that they're proficient at all 3 of those, or maybe even 2 of those, so they would have been backed into a corner with that Oregon ban. And
probably
I think especially with Triton having that final ban and being able to choose whether it's Chalet or Villa, this could be a big factor in how well or how quickly maybe this match plays out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, Triton could have obviously taken a gamble as well to, ban out Villa, so then we would have been left with Chalet, which to a certain extent would have been uncharted territory for both of these two squads, seeing as they haven't visited Chalet yet at all this season, but also because it is the newest map that was introduced into the pool as well. But Villa has been out since Parabellum. It's been out for, 2-3 years ish by now. A lot of teams have a ton of experience with Villa altogether, but obviously because of its architecture, Villa by nature does allow a lot more creativity and innovation to be brought to the playing field than other maps. It's just got tons more destructibility than your Oregon, for example. So obviously we're going to get a really, really good taste of both of these two squads' philosophies and how exactly, or let me rephrase that, it sort of their vision on how to play Siege in general. That's kind of what Villa offers when you compare and contrast it to other maps within the pool as well. So obviously it is going to prove a really, really spicy and entertaining matchup. We could see a lot of really standardized and optimized strategies, or we could see, for example, like the Closet Hold Premium, something like that. Literally anything is possible between these two squads moving into Villa.
It's true. And to be fair to Minutemen, I think that they have the opportunity here to start turning the script around and giving themselves a bit of momentum, because they're starting off on the defense, it being Team Triton's map pick. Minutemen have the luxury of choosing that side. So, Villa, fairly defense-sided, as we tend to know in the sort of competitive scene. But in case you're new, that is the general sway of things across the map pool. Villa is one of those sort of bang in the middle. You expect perhaps a 4-2 split. If you're doing particularly well on attack, then you want to get 3 rounds under your belt. But other than that, 2 is acceptable. Minutemen starting on defense. It's the stronger side. They need to make sure they start with their foot down, because they cannot let Team Triton gather any attacking rounds. Otherwise, they're going to really struggle in the second half. But yeah, getting that momentum early on, getting 4 or 5 rounds under your belt, that can do wonders for your confidence, especially in a season where you've struggled. So, Minutemen, it's all up to you in this first half. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, definitely so. Obviously, they have got to come out of the gates absolutely swinging. And let's just quickly touch a bit more on the actual history of Villa as a whole. Ever since its inception, it has stereotypically been known to be a defender-sided map, but over the last couple of months, I'd say roughly 2 to 3 months or something, we have seen plenty of showcases where Villa was played almost exclusively, almost religiously. We saw that happen at Epic 32. We saw that for I think it was actually the Thursday evening of Benelux Season 6 qualifiers as well, where Villa was just being played absolutely non-stop, and it gave us a much more clear idea as to how exactly the map is being played out and how it's performing across both the attacker and defensive sides. And one would argue, just off of statistics alone, that the Aviator and Games bomb side has become so much more attacker favored, just because of the fact that we've known it for so very long. We've rinsed and repeated the entire strategies till we have found the optimized and most optimal form to actually attack that bomb site, pushing in from Master Bedroom all the way to Aviator, basically a northern to southern clear. And because of the way that you're initially clearing out that entire map, it gives you leeway to plant in, directly behind the vault door, get an easy plant down while you're providing coverage all the way down to bar, potentially even open up vault in the process once you have control of 90. And judging from what I have seen, Aviator in Games has become so much more difficult to defend compared to what it was a year ago. So obviously, the Minutemen have to be really, really careful as to which bomb sites they choose to visit, and if they're going to visit AVG, they have to be careful with how often they choose to revisit it in case things go south.
Absolutely.
At least that's sort of the way that I'm looking into this particular matchup.
And it's one of the ways that you can set the pace on defense is to sort of mix up the sites that your
throw
attackers,
a couple of curveballs there. Yeah.
Start on dining kitchen. Suddenly the attackers do not have the tools to go in with for a dining kitchen take straight away. They might not have the same level of vertical destruction as you would bring expecting AVG, for instance. So that would really stymie an attack. And if they want to get off to the races, that is one option. Obviously, there are multiple ways of doing this. You can set the pace by doing like a very early round or early game spawn peak can be a massive thing for the mental, right? Because then immediately for the rest of the attacking half, Team Triton will have to be looking at those windows, making sure they're very cautious on their approach, and that's, you know, a good precedent to set. So we see it from a lot of pro teams that on the very first round they will try and spawn peak, and they'll force that kind of thoroughness, or at least roam heavily to force the thorough approach from the attackers and make sure that they have to check every box. Because if they realize that you're hunkering down, you're playing fairly cautious, then as that half sort of drags on, the attackers start to gain some real speed in their takes, and that can turn against you.
Yeah, definitely so. And obviously, right out of the gates, Minutemen, we know for a fact that they have got to come out and start off really strong, but judging by the past two play days, I'm a bit skeptical as to what exactly their mental state might be looking like right now. And obviously something might have happened in the past 6 or 7 days since we last saw them perform. And I'm hoping that what they've actually been able to sort of progress on over the past week or so is really going to be nothing but absolute positives, practically sunshine and rainbows for them, so that they can come into this particular matchup and really do their absolute darnest to, well, set the tone, as you said, in between themselves and Triton, and obviously touching a little bit on what we can exactly expect from them. You obviously said, you know, try out a couple of spawn peaks over there, try to or not necessarily claim control of the map on the defense, but really play the map. This was a concept that Reaper was discussing quite a bit in one of his earlier videos, where you would technically not necessarily commit to a full-on roam strategy, but you would just hunt down a couple of drones once you feel comfortable enough, having dealt enough damage to the attacker's drone economy. You can then fall back to site and help reinforce the rest of your squad as well. So it's really going to be down to Minutemen to see exactly how they want to approach Villa on the defense as well. I'm hoping that right off the bat they're going to do their absolute best to set Trident in their place and really force them to make sure that they check each and every single nook and cranny before the attackers feel comfortable enough to push onto the site, go for an execution, what have you, and then before you know it, oh, look at the clock. There's only like 30 seconds left for an execution. I really hope that the Minutemen can live up to their namesake and waste as much time as possible on the defensive side, because they need it as well.
There was a little bit of discussion beforehand as to whether they're definitely the Minutemen or the Minute Men, and I don't know. Neither is a sort of flattering term, but we'll
no, not really.
We'll hope that they don't shrink up and you know, shrivel away from this challenge, shall we say. An interesting little bit of trivia for you. This is only the second time we've seen Villa so far this season. Lockdown Ludens played Sniper Monkeys last week against on this map, and it was heavily defender favoured. We saw only one attacking round in the whole thing. Lockdown Ludens won their entire defensive half 6-0. So maybe that's a precedent that's been set for this league, or maybe it's just a one-off. We will see. It looks like we're very close to getting our game underway. I thought that might have been it, and no, it's not. We're so close. We're so close. It might just be a Minutemen for the Minutemen. I don't know. That was an awful pun. The first of many, I will assure you. If you're new to my style of casting, if it's the first time you've seen me, I will put awful puns everywhere as much as I can.
And it's gonna steal your heart as well.
No,
if
it's
this
not.
is the first time you're watching
you
Jerry
will hate it
on a broadcast,
if you don't.
You are not gonna hate it. You are gonna love.
If you don't hate it, I'm doing my job
it.
badly. That's my sort of bar that I set.
I mean, I've already fell in love with it. So to that extent, what's your evaluation? If I
don't know.
love
I think
your
that just means
horrible
there's
bad
something.
puns,
That just means there's something wrong with you, Tudor.
you think?
Yeah, we all knew this, but yeah, I think that's the diagnosis there.
Yikes.
Well, we've almost run out of stuff to talk about as well. We've exhausted the annals of Badass University League, and thankfully we are starting just on time as I was beginning to wear thin. I'm sure you all were too at home. But we have a game, everybody. We can actually watch some Siege. That's what you're here for. That's what we're here for. We're excited by this. It is Villa. It is Minutemen versus Team Triton, and we are banning Minutemen going first. What are we expecting here, Judo?
I'd probably say a Thatcher. That's technically been one of the massive staples on Villa altogether. You just want to remove him as soon as possible. And yep, there he goes. The next ban, though, is going to be... It's going to be relatively tricky. Personally, I don't know exactly what these two squads actually prefer in terms of attacker bans. It could potentially be a Blackbeard, just play it safe. If you really, really want to try to throw a spanner in the works of Team Triton, or technically they're taking this ban all to themselves, they might ban out a Maverick or a Heartbreacher, but instead, it's going to be a Nomad. So... With them starting off on the offense, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be shooting themselves in the foot by effectively allowing Minutemen have much more freedom with the flanks that they try to pull off. Naturally, you have Gridlock as a perfect substitute, but they might just feel comfortable enough to ban out both Moroccan operators, as Kaid is the next to fall as well, and that goes hand in hand with the Thatcher ban. This last one coming out, I'm going to have a wild guess and say it's going to be Mira, you know, just...
Yeah.
History.
Mira's
probably going to be the next to go.
That would be sensible. This is one of her best maps. You can, you know, the way that she can be used on AVG in particular is quite terrifying. But she will make her way through, and instead it is Melusi that's banned out. An interesting one there. So, a couple of spicy bans there, one from each side. The Nomad is certainly a statement of intent. You see a Nomad ban, you know that the team that's done it, in this case Team Triton, are intent on roaming and trying to get those nasty flanks off. Villa's a very good map for it as well. Nomad offering quite a lot of map control, and sometimes is a very necessary part of any given take, should it factor into the opponent's strategy. So Triton will be well practiced without her, and we're seeing the knock being brought out on first, as well as the Finker. I'd be surprised if both of these are stuck, and it does look like the Finker is going to be 6-picked away, so Matem's going to be
maybe to a Finker, 6-pick Finker onto a Finker. We don't know what Matem's...
Imagine using a Finker recoil, like her boost, to buff the recoil of the FMG9. Like, you don't need that. It's complete overkill. That thing hip fires at headshot level. Like you cannot miss with that gun. So
no, you simply can't, and especially if you are drop shotting, it's better than playing the PDW9 on Jackal as well. It is basically just a laser at that certain point. And yeah, it is the only realistic way to drop shot nowadays, since Ubisoft removed that, or at the very least they completely nerfed drop shots way back in the day, where, you know, they would have to force you to un-ADS out of it. But yeah, first round is going to be on AVG. Oh man, it is so lovely to see this particular skybox. I don't know about you, but my IRL skybox right now outside my window is basically just snow in April, which makes no sense whatsoever.
That's interesting. You're in Netherlands, right? So yeah, down here in London, well, I suppose it's up here in London compared to you, we've got nice glorious sunshine. It's kind of cold, but it's pretty. And we did have snow yesterday morning, weirdly, but I mean, it's April in 2021. Weather is not, like, weather doesn't make sense anymore, right?
No, it simply doesn't. I mean, obviously, the weather here, everybody touts it as being one of the drunkest climates in over the entire globe, but this is basically on a whole nother level, and no, simply put, Minutemen, they have to take their gameplay as well to a whole nother level. We see the entry from Triton already being set in motion as they are trying to do their darnest and clean control of, well, Study, and there's Octagon. He finds Dumbfries, who was surprisingly rocking the AM870, and he's going to be shut down in response, all thanks to Rose. No harm, no foul. It's a 4v4 between these two squads after only 50 seconds.
That it is. And removing the Jaeger early on, not too big a deal. Removing the Ash early on, huge, especially with, well, I was going to say those Banshees in place, but of course Melusi is banned. For some reason I thought she was picked. That's a dumb move. Either way, there's still important utility to remove. Those shields are very good. And Raj is playing very aggressively on 90 right here, trying to stem this push from the Nock, who has given away her location. So not much use out of that Hell Presence reduction gadget, but full Study control, and this is an unusual push for the most part, but Nook and Sledge going to be claiming kills apiece, and Matem's taking damage from the range fight of Soul, but he's going to go down himself, and now it's all up to Rose on 90, the Vigil alone, and Sardine has been res, so now 1 versus 3 will ensue, trying to retake, but MJR has control, has pushed out of the site already, and slaps the Vigil back down. Triton gain a very fast opening round here on Villa, 1-0.
Yeah, that was really, really commanding on the side of Team Trident, and basically everything, all the theory crafting that we were discussing before we hopped into the action, we can basically just throw that directly out of the window, because I personally thought that Team Trident would have opted for a full clear of the map, to be honest, starting off on the north side over by Trophy and Master Bedroom, and slowly but surely working their way towards the bomb site itself. But lo and behold, they decided to actually rappel up directly towards Study, claim control of the main staircase as well rather swiftly. It was super duper unfortunate that the Jaeger, who I believe at the time was Dumfries,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, rocking the M870 as well, which by the way I love seeing on Jaeger. Really forces you to actually think critically about how you're challenging CQB engagements overall. But I think it's safe to say that Minutemen weren't necessarily ready to receive that kind of speed. The pace that Team Trident were exhibiting was just maybe a bit too high enough for Minutemen to catch up with. They took Study super duper swiftly, and then they slowly but surely started to ingress the way towards the bomb sites, just clicking on heads left, right, and center until the last player standing was Rose, stuck over by 90, and they had pinpoint accurate information as to where the vigil was last seen. And at that certain point, it was relatively cut and dry. It was a really great start off coming out from Team Trident, but Minutemen, second time's a charm. Can they pull out a dub here on EVG, revisiting the bomb site? We'll find out shortly.
Interesting choice to pick off the mirror there as well. We've seen it twice now that Minutemen have opted to not bring that operator, having made it through the ban phase, and she is quite powerful, and it just means that Triton can continue to go for this strategy of just forcing their way into Study, because there's not really enough to deny them. If they feel as though they can win their gunfight towards the top of main stairs, then they have control of a very important buffer room and can basically start playing and execute from the 2-minute mark. So
yeah,
we're going to see that kind of same direct approach potentially come here. Replay got decent value off the Nook last time. I mean, he got a kill. Whether the gadget was anything to do with that, we are not entirely sure. But,
probably not.
But either way, it seems like a comfort pick, and if you can make it work, then power to it.
Yeah, definitely so. And she also comes with 2 frag grenades in her back pocket, which is something that you definitely want to utilize. But we've got JR kicking things off, shutting down Dumfries, who I believe was on the opposite side of the map altogether. Ruhr, however, is going to clap back and shut down the main culprit of that entry frag. So that is once again going to throw us into a 4v4 situation, but this is where things started to go relatively south, and Minutemen seemingly just collapsed entirely the moment that Team Trident started putting this hard breach utility to work, which is exactly what they're doing. They're going to be opening up that aviator wall, giving them plenty of room to work with, but not so much on the side of the Minutemen. They're going to start feeling so much more uncomfortable as Maidens is able actually to shut down Rose, and that doesn't bode well for Minutemen whatsoever.
Big chunk taken out of Raj's health there with a nade from beneath the yellow ping helping, but Sardin has found his way into sight and will get 2 in fact, Octagon and Matens will claim the lives of the final 2 defenders. So a swift push in once again from Team Triton, and I'm beginning to worry for Minutemen.
As am I, unfortunately. They tried to revisit the bomb site. They have so many extraordinary tools at their disposal, such as Mirror. You brought that up just a tad bit earlier, that they should be utilizing some of these operators if they're on the table, but they unfortunately weren't. And this time around, things were extraordinarily scattered on the side of the Minutemen, but we seriously have to give credit where credit is due, because Team Trident, they are playing absolutely out of their minds. 2 rounds to their name on their attacking half, and they're able to basically just waltz onto the bomb site the way that Sardine has done here so easily. It seems as if, well, Team Trident, they're simply just having a walk in the park. It's an absolute picnic for this crew.
It certainly is. And did I just spy both an Oryx and the Capcan? Yes, I did. This is a...
wow.
Well, if they're not mixing up the sites, they're certainly mixing up the operator picks. This is a
Both
very unusual. And the Blitz as well. Blitz Cali... What is going on? This is this is bizarre.
I don't know. Yeah, it seems as if in the span of 45 seconds, all traditionalism was just simply tossed out the window.
Yep.
I love it.
Reject tradition, embrace modernism. This is...
I think the meme is supposed to be reject normality, return to monkey.
That is very applicable here.
Indeed.
I feel like the Capcan, it actually is a decent swap though, because you can see how quickly Triton are moving in, and
Yeah.
it just gives them a bit of an early warning and maybe a cheeky frag or two, especially in the face of the blitz. They I don't know, I didn't see exactly how that 6-pick phase panned out, but certainly if it was a swap to the Kapkan in response to the blitz, that makes a lot of sense. I do want to touch on as well the Oryx, because this is a fantastic map for Oryx. So many hatches to jump up and down, and this is already a real nightmare to keep any roamers under wraps as an attacker.
True, yeah.
As soon as you add in the extra mobility that that Oryx brings you, it can be a real pain. But I think this is going to define the round right here. Dumfries on Age of Soul literally doing, I mean, unspeakable acts by the fireplace.
Unspeakable? Yeah, I thought they were just cuddling up, and now it's actually turned into completely unspeakable as Dumfries. He's able to shut down Replay with the sausage of all weapons, so that is quite the slap across the face indeed, and he's able to find a second onto MJR! Oh my goodness! If you thought that using the sausage was only viable on Finka, well, Dumfries is proving you wrong! 4 kills to his name, unfortunately can't find the ace, but what the hell just happened, Jerry?
Minutemen, they just slapped Triton round the face with a massive sausage. That's what happened. I mean, the Capcan was mounting Wamai to begin with, getting that sausage warmed up and ready for action. And then bang, 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 bang. It just all came tumbling down. That was a meaty round.
Yeah. To say the least, that was meaty indeed. Whew. Whew. I'm gonna need to take a small little breather after that.
You're gonna need a
right
cold
there.
shower, mate. That's what you need.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Flora's being brought. I don't think that's allowed. Six.
Nope.
Yeah. So the 6 is coming through here from Sardine, and Dumfries. Well, he's sticking that cap can. Is he sticking the sausage out? We will wait to see.
I would be disappointed if you wouldn't try to recreate the exact same magic as last round, because that was peak BUAL Siege right there, ladies and gents. He's going to try to do the exact same thing again, but Team Trident, they have already, well, recognized the mistakes, the errors of their ways in that previous round, so they're going to be, well, cranking things up a notch, or technically returning back to normality, which is exactly the opposite of the meme we were just talking about for the time being. Dropping the Kali, dropping the Blitz, dropping all the good old fun stuff, and just playing this out the way it should be. The way Comp Siege is meant to be played.
The way Jean-Baptiste Hal intended. Anyway, yeah, this is a slightly more, normal loadout on the attacking side. On the defensive side, though, we've still got this Oryx, we've still got the Capcans. So we'll see whether Rose can get some value, or whether Dumfries will just steal all the fun yet again. Rose is holding from the south side, but that's not going to matter at all, because right here Triton are once again going for a much more direct approach, and it's a master take from them. So Octagon droning out Closet. They have basically got control now of Master and can begin hopping in as soon as they feel safe to. Rose, having taken a bit of damage from this engagement, will cross into sight, but not successfully, as Sardine will fell the Oryx, and the early man advantage goes the way of the attackers.
That's a bit of a yikes, but technically that does mean that Dumfries is going to have his work cut out for him to, well, once again, try to pull off the exact same heroics as that last round. Octagon taking a boatload of damage thanks to those entry denial devices, and there goes Sardine. No one tap is swiftly going to deal with Dumfries, so unfortunately enough, well, the ambulance that he called for himself, or the ambulance that he was supposed to call, was indeed for himself, as he typed earlier in all chat. And there we have Sardine, not even opting to use the M762 to simply collapse cheeks on the side of the Minutemen, whips out the sidearm, and found 3 kills over the span of that entire round. That is pretty nuclear.
I thought it was 4. I think it was a 4 kill. I mean, he whipped out the sidearm, maybe. I think he got 3 kills with the pistol, perhaps. But
yeah, he definitely did.
That was, he also got the opening frag, so that was a very swift entry, just hopping in box window and walking into sight and taking down everyone. Besides the Jaeger, who we saw trying to do his best Steno impression and hiding in closet by the window, but didn't quite go the way of the tier 4 legend. So, very, very quick loss there, unfortunately, for Minutemen, and, well, sticking by their name, I guess. We have another attempt at this side of the map, trophy statue, and they're going to shore up the defenses somewhat, this time bringing Castle, Alibi, Valkyrie. It's almost all change here.
It's all changed except for one constant, and that is the fact that each and every single one of these Minutemen is rocking a shotgun.
Oh my god.
Is...
Oh my god, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah!
Hell yeah!
NSJ Sauce, he's going to be rocking that FO12, and obviously if you don't already know what FO12 stands for in Twitch chat, let me quickly just lay it out for you guys. The FO12 is called what it is because when you pull the trigger, you are effectively telling your opposition to F off 12 times. That's what it means. And then we've got Dumfries. Well, he's rocking the ACS. I can only assume with that 1.5x scope, so he's got a bit of sniping to do. Obviously, details make all the difference, as Glass has once touted during the launch of Vanilla Siege, and Dumfries, he's looking to take that to the next level once again.
Yeah, the ACS-12, a shotgun in name only, is a bit of a cheat, I think, with the rest of the team going with these, you know, more traditional non-slug shotguns. Octagon, though, is going to make short work of Rose yet again, winning that duel out, getting the opening frag. In fact, sorry, it was Sardine. It was Sardine with the first one. Oh, what the hell? Okay. Well, Raj is going to punish that entry, but Replay is going to reply onto Raj and punish the refrag. So Matem's taking down Dumfries, and already the site has been emptied out. Age of Soul trying to get a flank going, and NJ Source just sitting here by the Astro Stairs will begin to tell the opposition to FO, as you said, and he will find not a second. That is Age of Soul in the back with the Spaz, takes down NJR, and it's a 2 versus 2 all of a sudden. We've got 2 minutes left of this round. That was the first minute. Age of Soul has gone down. And now, it's effectively a 1 versus 2. No, it's not, as Age of Soul is able to be revived. Was that a tactical revive? It may well have been. Either way, Octagon is going to force his way into sight. Matems as well has control of the diffuser, so he'll begin to set it down. No C4 left in the hands of Age of Soul, so Octagon just holding Astro Stairs. Meanwhile, defenders, what route are they going to choose as the timer hits the orange, and now Octagon will find that flank. Age of Soul has to come back in. He has the Deagle in hand. He only has a Spaz, but he's met with one of his own castle barricades. How unfortunate. The tap, though, onto Matems will finish him off with the second shot as well. Now it's only Octagon, but he can't land it, and Octagon will one-tap the head of Age of Soul. And Triton and Minutemen, they are out to have some fun today.
They really, really are. I could have sworn that at the very, very start of the round, both of these squads, they entered what one would dub as a gentleman's agreement, because I did see a couple of players on the side of Team Trident also whip out some shotguns, except, you know, other people, other operators like Ash, they unfortunately don't have access to a shotgun, which in my mind should be changed. It is quite unfortunate that Ash doesn't have a shotgun, but people would argue otherwise. And let's actually focus a little bit about that actual 2v2 scenario at the very, very dying seconds of the round. Now, it was a 2v2, and it quickly turned into a 2v1 after there was a short little family feud between Zofia and Ella. If you don't already know, lore dictates that they are sisters indeed, and unfortunately enough, it was Rose on the Ella who was the first to fall, or it was actually Sauce on the Ella. Pardon me. And then we had Matems whip out the Deagle, because obviously the Spaz 12, it's just not cut out for those kinds of engagements, and he was able to take the first player down. That was Octagon, providing coverage with an assault rifle of all things, but the moment that he had to try to shift his focus all the way to the Zofia, Octagon, or I believe it was actually Sardine at the time, because Sardine has been putting that sidearm to God's use so far, it was all over. It was so unfortunate that it panned out the way it did, but that was arguably the closest that the Minutemen have gotten in a couple of rounds to actually sealing one out for themselves. Now we're going to be moving down to living in libraries. So why don't you go ahead and digest this prep phase for us, Jerry?
You've dealt me a horrible hand here. I know nothing about this site. Who knows anything about this site? Like, this is never played, right? Like, this is definitely not the strategy anyway. Like, as the few times that this site gets played, I doubt you see triple shield on the library walk-in. That is not normal. 2 of which are Goyo shields, so danger close for any attackers that want to walk their way in. And looks like Matems and Replay, in fact the entirety of Triton, are prepping to just rush in through this closet. But Rose is prone with the FO12. Oh my god, this could be a massacre. Down goes one.
but nobody is actually following it up on
No.
the side of Team Trident. They already realized that those weren't just warning shots, those were lethal shots. Dumfries finds one at the Sardine as well, shutting down his Spetsnaz counterpart, and that effectively gives Minutemen the man advantage and the lead, something that they haven't experienced in quite a while, and now it's starting to look better and brighter for them with each passing second.
I was very disappointed not to see the full send through the doorway. I mean, the window. Oh, well. I mean, Triton, they're a bit more sensible than that. They're going to find a different opening, and it's going to be Dumfries on main stairs that will go down. A very nicely tossed nade there to unseat the cap cannon. Now, 3 versus 4 for the attackers. Still doable, especially given the weakness of this site in general, and the vertical play can start to come through. They have some yellow pings. Interesting. Oh, he doesn't have the patches. He was expecting to have the breaching charges there so that he could to capitalize on these yellow pings, but they do have the sledge ready. The ping is misplaced though, and the destruction is not accurate, so they won't find the head of that defender just yet, and instead Octon will take a bit of a beating, but MJR is there to clean up source, and down goes the Goyo. 3 versus 3 now, with 1 minute and 12 seconds remaining. And Triton, well, they may have good control above, but they really need to start getting a move on. Octagon does find Age of Soul, and he's... Where is Octagon? I don't know. I think he's just pushing the site from main. Rose is holding from a distance, but Matem's, he's beginning to get the diffuser down. Where is this happening?
I don't know. I believe it's over by the actual library portion of the map as well, and now Minutemen, they're looking to contest this directly, but unfortunately enough, they don't stand a chance whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that both of these two players lined up perfectly for Matems, but regardless, it was Octagon to clean up the last remaining defender as well from above, and that was, if I may say, quite the swift recovery on the side of Team Trident, despite the fact that they suffered so many opening casualties in the very, very early stages of the round. They claimed control of top floor. The vertical play, however slippery it may have been, they were able to deal with not 1 but 2 players on the actual bomb site itself, and then they felt comfortable enough to, well, brute force their way onto the bomb site, get that diffuser down, and during that 7-second transition, it was still a 2v2 scenario, and Minutemen were left with so very little real estate and territory to work with that, unfortunately enough, all the cards were stacked against them, despite how outstanding the start of that round was.
I feel as though with that particular hold and the cap can playing at the top of main stairs, they had a man advantage at that point. It would have been wise for Minutemen, if they're taking this seriously, which we've, seen signs of that maybe not being the case. If they were taking it seriously on the library defense, to fall back and play for the refrags, because you've got the man advantage. We did see how influential that top-down control was, though. So, to be fair, holding some above is understandable. But, yeah, I think they just kind of... They laid down and took it, really. That was unfortunate to see. If there was a bit more sort of tenacity and a bit of a quicker response from the anchors to try and refrag as soon as the sledge made that entry, then maybe that is held successfully. Because essentially it was won through a single doorway by the attackers. They managed to force their way into sight, get around a bit of hard cover and plant. And then from that point on, it forced the engagement from the defenders. And they had to tunnel through one small opening. So, yeah. Unfortunate for the defense. That seals their fate, effectively. After taking 1 round away on a defensive half of Villa, I think Team Triton are just going to shut this out very quickly.
Yeah, obviously, now they're going to be moving on to the more favorable bombs, or the more favorable side, I should say, and effectively all they really need is 2 quick and easy rounds on the defense to close this match off, nab themselves 3 relatively easy points, and then, let the celebrations begin at that certain point. And now, Minutemen, obviously, that entire first half, those 6 rounds we witnessed, were not necessarily just a showcase of them potentially not taking this match all too seriously, just having a bit of fun altogether, because at the end of the day, video games, that's the entire meaning behind video games. Have fun with them. And Minutemen, they certainly are having fun. There were a couple of really, really outstanding moments throughout that first half, regardless of scoreline altogether, and they could definitely be having a laugh, but once again, that doesn't necessarily bode too well for them in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, if they want to walk away with 1 point, 2 points, even 3 points altogether, then they're probably going to need to force us at the very least to overtime, at the very most reverse sweep, ending off Villa with a flawless defensive half of their own, or a flawless attacking half of their own, I should say, which isn't all too attainable, unfortunately.
So, a little bit of drama here, Doodles. Since we're just getting confirmation. There was a protest during that round from the Minutemen, and it is a valid protest of a skin, an illegal skin being used on the side of Team Triton. So, the round has actually been forfeited by Team Triton and has gone to the Minutemen. So, the scoreline at the end of the half is not 5-1, but 4-2. Little recompense, still, for Minutemen. They can add that to their collection of rounds won this season, let's say. You know, it's gone up from 4 to 5. How about that? But they still have a mountain to climb, let's be honest. You just, you know, laid it out right there. Even with that, you know, slightly reduced deficit, they are still quite far behind. It does seem like, you know, on the face of it, it's only 2 rounds, but that's 2 Villa defense rounds. You need to be picking those up. So, Team Triton, still in control. The one thing that this could do is affect the mental game. I doubt that Team Triton are too happy with that. You know, they were here to have fun. Everyone was having a good old time. There were memes, there were shotgun rounds, there was pistols out at every opportunity. The sausage fest that we saw. And I feel as though the tone has changed somewhat now with this with this protest. So we'll see if there's any bad blood between these two now. But I suppose this is just a good place to settle it, right?
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, don't get me wrong, Team Trident, they're obviously the much more dominant squad between the two, so I think it's really, really likely that they're probably just going to brush off that single round off their shoulders, get themselves back on the horse, and just ride down into the sunset and close off Villa as soon as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's just a single round that they might have to try to gather or regain all to themselves, and that's not all too hard to accomplish. But let's go ahead and quickly discuss exactly what Minutemen are bringing out this time around. 6th pick from Fuse. What I can only assume will be back onto a Fuse as well. Otherwise, Rose, it'd be disappointing if they don't 6-pick back onto the Fuse, but we'll see. Clash is going to be dropped in lieu of Elysian, so that is also relatively understandable. Also, Aruni is making a debut this evening, which is going to be really, really interesting to see on the side of Team Trident.
I think I know what... Wait, hang on. Okay, I was going to say I know what's going on here for Minutemen. I was going to say they're bringing as many smokes as physically possible. But we have Glaz frags. Like, that's that's not normal. Anyway, it doesn't matter, though, because he's got plenty of smokes around him.
Yeah.
So,
but it's still quite ironic.
Yeah, but bringing the frags when you can is you know, acceptable. I think this is probably one of the only instances where I can understand Glaz frag. But needless to say, this is going to be a smoky round. There is some catching utility on the side of Triton. They've got the Aruni gates, they've got the Jaeger ADSs, so maybe they're not going to be as bombarded as Minutemen would like. But with the shields, the scans coming out from the Inox, the map control that both the Flames, the Monty, and the Track Stingers can afford you, once Minutemen get in, this is going to be a cluster cuss.
Oh, 157% it is. And if you guys are curious as to why exactly Team Trident aren't bringing out a Wamai, despite the fact that he is the direct counter of Capitao, being able to magnetize those smoke and asphyxiating bolts, the reason why you aren't seeing him is because Wamai doesn't actually destroy throwables. He catches them. His magnets, they get magnetized in, and then the timer gets reset, so it eventually does go off. So even if Wamai were to be brought out, the entire top floor would still be engulfed in smoke, regardless as to what happens. But back to the action at hand. Dumfries, well, he's able to swiftly clean up. No, okay, fine. He was trying to steal his teammate's kill, but elsewhere, 2 players on the side of Minutemen have already been injured. 1 has been picked up as Sardine just wide swing shutting down Dumfries. Sauce will once again regain 20 HP, but this has already gone horribly south for the players of Minutemen. Octagon finds one onto Pepperoni. The refrag onto the Aussie is inevitable as well, but this is going to leave Sauce in a 1v3 scenario. Now, he's got roughly 200 rounds to work with. I'll give him that much, but that C4, oh, it is just bang on the money.
Doesn't matter how many rounds you have. If you lose the rounds overall, that's C4 lethal. And Rose taunting his opposition. Catch, he says. So, that's That's a bit of an oof. Triton holding firm against what was a disappointingly less smoky round than I anticipated.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. We saw also, I think it was actually the glass that Sauce was bringing out was like, or it was Dumfries on the glass. I think they were one of the first operators to even be felled as well. So, you know, you lose out on your glass, you can basically throw all your hopes and dreams of claiming your round dub straight out the window. It's not going to happen if you already lost your glass within the first 20 seconds.
That's a bit heavy-handed, right? There's other hope. Yeah, I think you've got other hopes certainly, but as soon as I saw the Monty drop shield to try and fight the Valkyrie that was in his face, I was a little bit skeptical about Minutemen's hopes for the rest of that round. It was probably not the best play. He won't be too happy that we caught that on camera, so apologies. I can't quite remember.
You can take it up with Science after the matchup,
Yeah.
but it is literally in his contract to do as many players dirty as possible.
Exactly. But ooh, that was an interesting little observer bug. Did you see that? So the Mute had his jammer out, and then we switched from first person to third person, and it showed the radius of the jammer from the top-down view. Which I honestly, I would love to see that. Like, I would love to see the top-down view radius when he's putting it in, as though it was him. But alas, that's not how the spectator view works. Oh well.
It would be really, really cool to see, at least, you know, when you're deploying it, the same way that when you throw a Kite Electric Claw, you can see the actual AoE of it start to sort of envelop. But let's go ahead and take a look at the action as the Minutemen, they've already decided to rush up the Astro staircase, and they're going to meet some stern resistance as Replay, Matom, and Sardine, they all grab a frag to themselves. The kill feed is just a sea of orange at the time, and it's all in the favor of Team Trident. Ruar, though, finds 3 as he shuts down Octagon just like that. Excuse me, not 3, but 2. And now it's all down to MGR to clean up Age of Soul, and Ruar, being the last lone American standing, will be felled at the hands of Replay from inside of the bathroom. And that round was basically over before it even began. Team Trident, they find their 6th, they find match points.
So our observer pointed out before the start of the round that they didn't have anything for the rotate besides C4. And, and the Maverick just sprinted straight into the rotate, and it wasn't there. Like, they were so stuck inside of Astro with that rush. It was that kind of that thing where you play the game so much better than your opponent, but because your opponent is that much worse, it works against you. Like, who doesn't put a rotate there?
I don't know.
It was the perfect counter to the rush strat. They knew what they were doing all along.
Yeah, just don't make a rotate. Just leave the wall soft or even reinforce it. They won't see it coming. They're gonna bash their heads into a concrete wall for all I care, and just like that, well, they certainly caught Ruhr off guard with that one.
Well, we're left now on the tertiary site because Triton have successfully defended. I hesitate to use the verb defended, given the nature of the past 2 rounds. But they've successfully won a couple of rounds, and that puts them here on this 3rd site. We're seeing the Cav come out, so clearly Sardine wants to have a little bit of fun in this final round. We're also seeing Age of Soul bring out the Amaru, and as far as Amaru goes, she is super effective on Library, and not very effective on many other sites. Matom's is trolling right here. Doesn't want Octagon to get back into the site, and he's going to make sure that someone gets on the rappel and kills him. No, never mind, he's let him through.
Oh, I was pretty sure it was just a bit of a warm-up sesh, you know, kind of like the New Zealand All Blanks' war dance before each and every single rugby match. They were maybe just doing that, getting themselves, you know, ended up prepped for this potentially what could be our last round of the evening between these 2 squads.
Minutemen have one attack strategy, and this is it. It's conga line, basically. Let's see if it works. Dumfries is leading the charge here, and right now MGR is just waiting. He will get a kill. 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
4.
There's the 4th.
Okay.
Wow.
And down goes Sardine and Octagon in that. Age of Soul is now met with a Jaeger in his face and will actually get the kill.
G8 hipfire? That's something I haven't seen in a hot second right over there, but this is definitely winnable. The diffuser is stranded inside of Memorial, so it's not necessarily all too easy for him to recover, but he can certainly click on heads. He's managed to do that 3 times over the course of the last 20-ish seconds, so why not just do it twice over and, you know, get the dub for Miniman? But he's actually decided to, well, use that Gara grappling hook to its full potential and wants to go for the approach from up top instead.
Here's the play. Go to Skylight, rappel down, and get the soft angle onto the Frost. Right? That is how you do this. Is he actually going to do it? He's actually he's going to the Skylight. This could actually happen. If I pretend, oh, you can only repel. Wait, yeah, you can repel from the other side, but the way he's repelling here, he's not going to get the angle.
No, he won't.
It's reinforced anyway. So there's no point.
There is still a large portion above that wall that can be opened up, which has just been done for him, so he'll have Maidens to thank for that one. But yeah, and like you said, you can't grab an angle onto the Memorial Room from the Skylight if you're repelled on the west side. You have to do it from the eastern side or actually be inside of the building to do so. And I think Team Triton already know what's up. They know that the jig is up as well. Age of Soul now has to brute force his way onto the bomb site, and he's looking to grab the diffuser as well in the process. Team Triton, they're already on his case. They know exactly where he's located with all weapons and guns trained on his position. He finds the first. That's a quad. An ace is needed, and he can't secure it, unfortunately enough. Matems from afar, 1 buckshot to the chest will seal the deal, and Team Triton, they take Villa rather convincingly with a final scoreline of 7-2.
Well, MJR, I don't think I've ever casted a less impressive 4K. That was just he sat in one position and sprayed down the opposition. That was very, very nice from him. Age of Soul has wait, did he have 100% cost, or am I reading that wrong?
Well, I mean, there was
that might be from the Rio.
So
that was from the Rio. Yeah. Okay, so he had an impact in all 3 of the losing rounds, but yeah, doesn't matter if you lose. So commiserations to Minutemen. They certainly tried to do their name justice there by completing every single attacking round within a minute, but it didn't work in their favor. So
sadly, no.
Okay, well, I'm just getting some interesting news from our observer, but I will keep that to myself. Anyway, Team Triton, they were dumb on them. There's so little to say about that game, right? You can't analyze such a meme fest as that.
I mean, we can definitely try to analyze it, but I'm pretty sure that we would lose brain cells in the process of doing that. So, you know, I like my brain cells. I'm gonna choose to keep them intact. They don't regenerate.
You're right. Yeah, we need to be careful with them. All right, well, I suppose now is as good a time as any to throw to a break, right? We've got plenty of time before the next match, so do stick around because there's going to be a fairly lengthy break. But get yourself a drink, get yourself a snack, and we will be back very shortly with our next matchup, which is Chimp Hunters versus the Froggers. Don't go away. Hello everybody, we are back with another Badass University All-Stars League match, the final one of week 3. So by the end of today we'll have a very good understanding of who the best teams are, who the worst teams are. Maybe not, there's still plenty left to change, but Chimp Hunters and Froggers are the ones that are going to bring us to a close today. Two doors. That was a very interesting match on Villa between Minutemen and Team Triton, wasn't it? Let's have a look back at that first of all.
Oh, I'm not sure if I want to have a look back at it, to be fair, but don't get me wrong, there were a lot of really, really amazing highlights from that matchup, like across all 9 rounds that we witnessed. You know, let's just set aside the fact that it was an absolute stomp for Team Triton. They took it rather swiftly. I already did bring this up behind the scenes, but Twitch chat, I think you guys also deserve to know my personal highlight from that particular matchup. It was directly after round number 3. Now, let's quickly paint a picture of what happened in round number 3. Dumfries and the rest of the Minutemen, they decided to probably just, you know, reject normality, return to monkey. They whipped out shotguns. All 5 of them were rocking shotguns, and Dumfries was playing the Capcan. He was bringing the sausage as opposed to the SMG, and he managed to find 4 kills in quick succession with the sausage, just constantly spamming mouse 1 non-stop. And just like that, we had the Minutemen finding their first legitimate round of the entire evening. Now, the round after that, before we actually jumped into the action phase during the prep phase, he quickly typed in all chat, "Call an ambulance, but not for me." And then lo and behold, 20 seconds later, he was the first in the lobby to die. That is my highlight from the entire matchup.
Karma is a cruel mistress, isn't it? And yeah, I think Dumfries, he had his moment in the sun. That was a really, really nice highlight reel clip for himself. But yeah, it was the only thing good about the whole match for Minutemen. They gained another round through a forfeit. And then they just rushed the hell out of the attacks.
Frame that one, hang it up as well, probably.
Yeah.
It was a good round.
Yeah. I think the less said about that match, the better. I think we can leave that to one side. The Team Triton will be happy with the victory. I don't think it adds anything to their sort of stature, personally. But they remain feared. Let's put it that way. Sure. Chimp Hunters and Froggers. Let's turn our attention to them. So, Chimp Hunters. So far, very, very good record from Chimp Hunters. And we can hopefully have a look at the rosters very soon. But they've had a good showing so far, this lineup. Where is Mo? Soundanos, Angelo, Bullet, and Atlantic. Angelo part of the Checksland squad that managed to do so well last season, winning the whole damn season itself on points. And yeah, the rest sort of cobbled together, but also very, very capable. One of the highlights of seeing this team perform last season was last week, was the fact that every single one of them was able to step it up in some capacity. There was not a single round where any one of them against the Minutemen there wasn't a single part of the match where any one of them didn't contribute. They were all doing incredible. Mo was probably the least standout of the lot, but he was basically a rock. He was continually performing in every single round, getting that consistent, you know, final frag or something just to close out the round. And everyone else had their incredible standout moments. Froggers, on the other hand, they've had a rougher season. Chimp Hunters managing to win all of their matches so far. Froggers haven't. They managed to push the princesses, the mighty princesses, all the way to 8-7. They lost 8-7 on Chalet in the very first play week. It was a monumental match. If you have the opportunity, go back and watch that. There were some incredible plays from both sides, and I cannot wait to see them in action again. Unfortunately, they lost there. They also lost against Coconut Cracked last week. 7-5, but I have a feeling that they may be about to gather their first win. Just a feeling.
You know what? The optimist in me probably is going to back you up. Obviously, despite the fact that Froggers haven't necessarily gotten the results they wanted, they are still a prime contender for eventually working their way through the standings and reaching the tippity top, if at all possible. Obviously, if the last 2 weeks are anything to go by, they have been able to push each and every single map they played to the end of regulation or all the way to overtime as well, just however not being able to close it off in the very, very dying seconds. So personally, I still think that Froggers, they've gotten warmed up, but obviously this week is going to be a bit of a challenge, despite the fact that I do think that they are going to climb their way through the leaderboard. We might have to wait until next week for them to grab themselves a couple of dubs, just because of the fact that Chim Hunters are an absolute unit. But let's quickly just focus on Frogger, since we haven't touched on their roster just yet. We've got Reverse, we've got Flau, Vulcanoid, Yukio, and Murph. 2 players, that is Reverse and Murph, hailing from the University of Liverpool. Go Arctic Foxes. And with that being said, let's actually go ahead and quickly visit our battleground for this evening. Let's go ahead and take a look at the map, Vito. And Jerry, why don't you go ahead and talk us through this Vito?
Well, Cafe and Oregon, the most recently played maps from both these sides. Cafe was Chimp Hunters' place of victory last week, and they did impress. And Froggers, unfortunately, losing on Oregon to Coconut cracked. Villa and Coastline, the following bans. So we still have Clubhouse in the pool in this selection, but banned out by Chimp Hunters, leaving Chalet and Consulate. Froggers, they don't have fond memories of Chalet, it would seem, after that first week beating from the Princesses. Even though it was 8-7, they don't want to go back there anytime soon. So Consulate is their choice for tonight.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, really interesting matchup, just because of the fact that I always love seeing one of the maps that actually starts off with the CB played,
one of the 4.
One of the 4 Cs, I always love seeing it, but, not Clubhouse. Coastline, Chalet, and Consulate, those are always a good time. And Consulate, it's also bound to be a good time as well. It is technically like the black sheep of the herd when you take a look at all of the maps, because it has such a drastically different gameplay scenario, all in all. Each and every single one of the bomb sites that is shown and that exists on Consulate provides a very, very unique take on how Siege can be played. That top floor, it is heavily based around repelling outside of the building. The bottom floor with the garage, you've got a couple of different access points, but you've got one entire beachhead that can be established instantly the moment that you've got the garage open. And then probably the most unique part about Consulate in general is the fact that it's got a one-of-a-kind base, one-of-a-kind bomb site, in the sense that it is currently the only map in the entire competitive map pool, not sure if in the game altogether, but in the competitive map pool, that has bomb sites which are stacked one on top of each other. That being the visa office, as well as the archive section in the basement, which, for those of you guys who used to play during year 1, used to be sort of like the domination point in secure the area as well. Way back in the day. Completely different game mode that has been relegated and everybody hates it now. But regardless, Consulate, it's always a good time. It's always fun because it has so many different experiences that can be provided and, lived while you're actually with your boots on the ground in the lobby.
Yeah, it's an excellent map. I always enjoy a good Consulate. A lot of people were calling for it to leave the map pool, and I was surprised because it has been there for the longest time, to be fair. Yeah. It is the longest standing map, but I think with reason. I think it's an excellent one. The addition of that split site, as you mentioned, just adds a bit more dynamism. And one of my favourite things about it, it is quite fraggy, but at the same time, very objective focused. A lot of the sites are easily approachable. They don't have any buffer rooms. You think about, for instance, that garage site. It's iconic for being one of the hardest retakes in Siege as a defender. If that bomb goes down, the attackers have so many options to be able to cover it from a distance. A lot of the other sites are quite similar, and it means that attackers do have that impetus to go for the site, and I do enjoy a good plant or two. So after having seen absolutely none in that previous game, maybe we'll get a couple in this one.
Yeah, hopefully so. And I really, really think that, Consulate as a whole, that is technically leaning more towards the attackers. They tend to be much more favored than usual. Yes, I see you raising your finger.
Yeah, there was one plant in that last game, I think. I just remember.
There was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It was during that living room attack, if I'm not mistaken. That was Team Trident that got the plant down. Yeah, you're not wrong.
There were more than one. I'm an idiot. Because it was attacker favored, right? There was one on trophy as well. But yeah, there were plenty of plants. Ignore me. Yeah, Consulate will have more, I think.
I can't ignore you. You're my co-caster. It would be really, really strange if I were to simply ignore you. It would be overlapping our voices. The entire broadcast would be a massive garble. Can't do that.
You can always ignore me. Feel free to ignore me at any point during the cast, Judo. You have my permission. Yeah, it's a good map.
So strange to hear.
It's a very good map. I am looking forward to seeing these two sides come up against each other, because I feel as though performance-wise, they've had very similar seasons, but Chim Hunters, they've had the better side of the coin. They've always gotten that result at the end of it, and Froggers have struggled. So, yeah, like I said, before we started today, we thought there might be a lot of mismatches. This is going to be the one that could go either way, if any. Chim Hunters may be favourites, but I think our predictions don't mean a thing. Really, do they? Because at the end of the day, we've got a game on our hands, and it's about to start. Thankfully, we are here with Consulate, with Chimp Hunters and Froggers, showing down. And I'm confused by the fact that it's Chimp Hunter. That just threw me right off. Chimp Hunter, one word, just the singular hunter.
I mean, the fact that it's a compound word and it's just Chimp Hunter all in one as opposed to there being a space in between is kind of boggling. But, you know, Chimp Hunters as a whole, now that you actually bring this up, okay.
It could be like the PH phoneme, so it's actually Chimfunter.
Chimfunter. That is going to be really difficult to incorporate, like, mid-cast, but I'm going to give it a go. We've got Chimfunter going up against Froggers on console. The first ban from Chimfunter was Capitao. He won't be seeing the light of day. He's going to be left on the bleachers, and I can only assume that Froggers might ban out Nomad this time around. It would be kind of sensible to ban out a Nomad.
It would. We have seen Nomad bans previously on Consulate, and she is very powerful. She will enable a lot of the repelling that attackers want to do, especially on a CEO attack, and also keep control of any map control that is gained. But she will make her way through, as will Thatcher and all the hard breach. Capitao and Jackal instead going. So a lot of lost utility for the execute and for the roam clear. But in terms of approaching the site, there's a lot that the attackers can do now. Valkyrie and Mirror the last to go. Valkyrie fairly common on Consulate as a ban because she's so powerful at enabling those runouts, which are sometimes necessary. And Mirror the final one, always an interesting one to see on Consulate because she doesn't see too much use even if she makes her way through the ban phase. But I suppose her strongest site is the split site on the basement.
Yeah, no, obviously when it comes to Mira, she doesn't necessarily see all too much play on the top floor as well as in lobby and press room where the harpsichord is, not a piano, harpsichord, because the nature and the actual architecture of those two bomb sites don't really give you all that much space to work with to place down a black mirror and play down behind it. But the basement is a bit of a different story because you can place one inside a cafeteria overlooking the white van, thus the breach, and the exact same thing goes for the office that is next to lockers. Now you can also utilize a mirror in the split bomb site, specifically by placing one on the archives wall, basically over by Harry Potter, where the bottom of the Visa staircase is directly looking into cafeteria as well. So Mira is relatively select, and she can only be played on a couple of exclusive bomb sites on Consulate, but the fact that she is banned means that neither of the two Spaniards will see the light of day this time around. However, we do have the Chip Hunters starting off on Garage, which is rather interesting to see. Obviously, a bit of favoritism, or at the very least lack of favoritism. I would have thought that it would have gone for the top four, but guess not. Immediately spicing things up right out of the gates.
Top floor defense is going to be especially difficult with the Valkyrie ban out of play and the Nomad in, right? That is almost a default win for attackers on the top floor. It's already been a very, very difficult place to defend in the recent meta, and yeah, these bans definitely favor attackers when it comes to that site. But Angelo trying to get that cheeky little spawn kill with the P10 Roni at the very start doesn't quite succeed, but he's already laid down his utility, as is Aruni's laser gates, and we're going to see Murph come into contact with the first of them here. Doesn't have any flash grenades anymore because Ash lost them recently, has a Claymore in pocket. But in case you're new to Siege, those Aruni gates are interesting. They do a lot of things. They basically burn any throwables, including drones that might come through them, and they will deal 30 damage to you if you decide to walk through them as an attacker. But once they have been spent, they have a cooldown period of about 30 seconds or so before they can actually be reactivated by the defenders just by shooting the little nubbin at the top that creates them in the first place. So they're, in essence, indestructible, but on a timer.
Yeah, definitely so, and not even an actual Thatcher EMP can be utilized to disable them, which is rather interesting and just actually sort of boosts the overall, power and the overall strength of those laser gates altogether. Now we've got Angelo sat inside of the press room by the looks of it, and he's also got one player to deal with that is currently on Repel. If I'm not mistaken, that is Falau donning the Thatcher this time around, and they're trying to... Well, they've already actually isolated Angelo altogether, but they just need to claim the frag. They need to be able to shoot him in the head, and then they can shift all their focus towards an execution onto the bottom side, because as long as Angelo maintains control of the press room, the Froggers can't safely, exert vertical pressure just yet. They have to claim control of lobby and press room before they can start to feel the Chimp Hunters, or before they can start to force them, to make them feel a tad bit more uncomfortable down below. Flo is going to walk directly into the LOS of the Pepperoni in the hands of Angelo, and will be in the DBNO state, not cleaned up just yet. And Angelo, he's hungry for more, but he'll be punished. Doing so, Murph is going to claim him all to himself, and that is the roam presence now 100% dealt with.
Flower rezzed as well by Volcanoid, and that is top floor and middle floor control in the hands of the attackers, rather. So, 4 defenders hunkered down. With 45 seconds left to go, this is certainly winnable, but the idea with piano control is not necessarily to find kills, but to push those defenders back and allow a plant to go down by White Van. It will be Yukio's job to have that opened up, and he has already done so. With those smokes in hand, especially as the ace, he's well equipped to give himself the cover he needs to get that diffuser down. Defensive control here above. Yukio will capitalize on some of that, finding the angle towards Soundowness, who got a little bit aggressive. Immortal pushing up towards this White Van. Has a C4 in hand, but Yukio trying to stick the plant. No, he falls off a bit, expecting the push, but Immortal sends out that C4, 11 seconds left, and that could be a massive frag in the grand scheme of things. Murph, though, pushing deep into sight, gets a frag. Atlantic goes down as well to the hands of the Ash, and now Flow is putting down the diffuser. But Reverse just frags his way through. The Froggers frag out, and that is it. Attacks round 1. Going the way of Froggers.
That was a really, really great execution coming out from Froggers, and I started to think that they were almost entirely unable to actually pull it off because of the fact that the roam presence on the side of the Chimp Hunters, specifically Angelo, wasted so much of the Froggers' time. Angelo was actually allowed to persist inside of the press room for just around 2 minutes before he was finally taken care of, and at that certain point, the Froggers then had to actually perform under pressure. Under the pressure of the clock specifically, because with each passing second it starts to work as that 6th defender. But they were completely, unrelenting. They basically didn't even pay attention. They completely ignored the timer whatsoever. And they were able to not only breach open the garage, as a result, get the diffuser down on top of that, and then still feel comfortable enough to just, go nips deep inside of the bomb site and start clicking on heads left, right, and center. At no certain point did I feel as if Froggers were actually, under pressure whatsoever. They were performing to the absolute max.
They really were, and it was literally like a moment that we thought, oh wow, Chimp Hunters might have this. That C4 from Immortal, so crucial to deny the first attempt at the plant. But the response from Froggers was phenomenal, sending Murph and Reversed in to frag out their minds. And then, I think, honestly, also, maybe an overlooked factor, Volcanoid picking up that diffuser, just extending the timer slightly as well to ensure that balls to the wall gung-ho push comes to fruition. If, for instance, the last defender had been a Maestro sitting inside of Archives rather than inside of the small office, then had that diffuser not been being stuck, that's a defense round, right? You can't fully commit to fragging out deep into sight. So brilliant awareness from the Ying to pick up that diffuser and give it a little bit of an extra go, and trusting in Reversed and Murph to do the duty of good gunners. We know that Reversed is capable of it after his performance against the Princesses in week 1, but we're going to see now another attempt at this garage take. Wall again successfully opened. Yukio putting those Selma charges to good work. Second breach is botched slightly, but they have a poppable hole, so that should be enough for them.
It definitely should be enough for them. I can also see that they have spotted out one of the Evil Eyes that was placed over by the White Van as well, and, well, interestingly enough, Bullet has actually not altered the position of his Evil Eyes whatsoever, so that means that they can be easily identified by the Froggers and dealt with just as rapidly. But dealing with this roam presence once again is going to be a tad bit trickier. Obviously, Chimp Hunters, they're deciding to, well, toss in a couple more eggs into the roam basket this time around, and they are still continuing to persist. We've got both Sandanos as well as Angelo on the top floor, playing inside a bathroom, as well as Zulu. Now, they have been droned out, but Froggers can't actually enter the building for the time being and deal with them outright. We're already just about to surpass the halfway mark of the round, and all 10 players are still alive and kicking in the lobby. But the tricky part about this roam presence on the side of Chimp Hunters is that they have actually no retreat routes to the bomb site whatsoever, but they're fine with that. Sandanos picks up the first on the Vulcanoid. That means that it's a 5v4 scenario, and now things are starting to look a tad bit more antsy for the Froggers.
Cheeky hold there by Sandanos. He was prone by that piano window with a punch hole looking towards the lobby, and that's why Vulcanoid went down. So entering into a disadvantageous gunfight, certainly one way to lose your life as an attacker, and that's exactly what you've got to do on the defense, is make use of that map around you in the moment. That was not a pre-considered thing. That was an adaptation on the fly. So very nicely done by the Melusi. Flau trying to push into the bathroom and clear it out, but he doesn't know that Sandanos is still here in piano. Flau is sort of... He's got this wide map control. Reverse finally takes down the Melusi, and now that leaves Angelo high and dry. They have reinforced the hatch, so he has to fight his way out of this position. The breach to his right is open, and he will actually get the frag onto Merv. Good control there, but the refrag comes through from Reverse. Absolutely key. So 3 versus 3 now, but with only 20 seconds left, this is very limited time for the attackers to begin an assault. Yukio holding Diffuser, still outside the breach. And Atlantic trying to retake on the site. In fact, Yukio goes down. He's trying to enter from Cafe, and now Importer will take down Flower. Reverse last alive with 3 kills to his name, but he doesn't have time to plant. He has to go for the kills. 1 second left, and now the defenders can rush towards him, but they're being cautious. This gives Reverse a bit of time in the fight. Maybe he can pop up and get the kills he needs. He doesn't, though, and he goes down. Importer will find the head of the Zofia and get that key defuse. Froggers now losing that second round. Tie us up 1-1. Chimp Hunters cleaning up.
That came down to the wire, but regardless, I really love the overall adaptations that Chimp Hunters brought out in the grand scheme of things. They obviously decided to commit just a tad bit more to their roam game compared to that previous round altogether, and they also played it much differently altogether. Last time around, we had Angelo on the Aruni, basically stuck and isolated inside a press room, but in round number 2, they had essentially a bit of a buddy system going on with Angelo as well as Sandanos just sort of running around causing as much chaos as possible over by Zulu, Yellow Stairs, as well as the bathroom. But obviously the thing that was really outstanding and really entertaining to watch about that roam game in general is because they 100% fully realized that they have no way to actually retreat safely back onto the bomb site. As you said, if they want to get back to the bomb site itself, they would have to fight their way out of the roam game, which is exactly what they didn't accomplish, but they were able to take a lot of players to the grave along with them. And in doing so, the clock was starting to be burned out so ridiculously to the point that Froggers only had 20 seconds left before they had to commit to a cafeteria push, and it was just brought to a grinding halt thanks to the Alda in the hands of Bullet. That was a really great adjustment on the side of Chimp Hunters when we compare and contrast rounds 1 and 2, and they were able to find the dub, locking the basement bomb site, and now they have the luxury to move to the top 4 to see if they can continue the win streak.
So, top floor, and as we were talking about a little bit earlier, theory crafting during the first round setup, this is a tough one for the defense, especially with the bans in place. No Valk to get that key intel outside the map. So instead, they've got a pulse. This is important because it will allow them to read into the push, and you can see exactly what he's doing, trying to find out which direction these attacks are coming from. Already some early spawn peaks coming through. I believe that was from Bullet, and Yukio taking a hefty chunk of damage in the process. In fact, it may have been from Importal, not quite sure. Either way, no, Angelo. He's retreating from that position. Angelo, yeah, so Angelo on the Mozzie. And you got to hit the headshots with the P10 Roni, so Yukio, lucky to get away alive there. But Sandanos reading into this push, seeing that it's very admin heavy, and as such, plenty of Chimp Hunters defenders are moving over in that direction, looking to hold on to admin. It has been sort of, you know, philosophy of attackers for a while to try and just stick on the repels and pick apart the defense that sit inside the site. But yeah, you can't do that as well from admin. That being said, Reverse is just going to prove me wrong as he finds Bullet. Angelo, though, will punish him in response. There's a lot more cover in admin to go for the fight back onto the repelling players, and Angelo's just proved that.
Yeah, indeed. Obviously, fighting from behind or from inside one of the cubicles is a bit of a tricky task because it's a lot of visual cover, you can shoot directly through all of those cubicles as well and land the head the same way that, well, Bullet took a shot to the head as well, but Angelo did the exact same thing in return, and he has since retreated into the copy room itself and continues to play out of there, and he's actually choosing to persist by the looks of it. This is really, really interesting. I thought that he would have forfeited this ground, but he just wants to catch the Froggers with their pants around his ankles, and that's exactly what he's done. Flau was the next to fall, but now Angelo is going to be punished for his crimes. Unfortunately enough, not cleaned up just yet, but we can only assume that the Froggers aren't going to get to that endeavor as soon as humanly possible. That is going to, well, turn this into a technical 3v3 scenario as Yukio is able to clean up Angelo, and now, well, it's still anybody's game, and there are 60 full seconds left to play with.
Sardanos, with that C4 from beneath, could be key with the timer coming into play. And Portal is going to make sure that that is a factor as he smokes off Soda Machine, stymieing some of that approach from the attackers. They're kind of limited in their take here. They certainly want to get someone onto that projector window as soon as possible to apply pressure into the site itself. That is exactly what I believe Volcanoid is doing right now. As that Ying is very well equipped to clear it out, we'll see the first Candela come out, and Yukio is in a position to already go for a plant. A lot of damage dealt onto Murph, but Portal will come out better. Sandanos finds the C4 onto the planta, and that is huge. Now Volcanoid is the only one left alive as Murph is down at range by Atlantic. Does have the opportunity to potentially pick him up with only 13 seconds left. He's going to plant in an odd position. This is very important. Soundanos has to retreat back to site, so no more intel from that pulse, but it doesn't matter as Atlantic swings and takes down the final attacker. The retake working out very nicely for the defense, adapting to that push with the pulse and reading it perfectly.
That was an outstanding retake on the side of the Chimp Hunters, and don't get me wrong, I think that even though the mid to late round had a lot of the most sort of defining factors overall, we really got to give credit where credit is due because of all of the chaos they were able to cause inside of admin. They were able to shut down 2 players on the side of the Froggers and effectively just wind down that clock until there were only 65 seconds left to play with, and that already worked absolutely outstanding on the side of Chimp Punchers. But more importantly was the actual fact that they were able to keep in Portal was playing on the smoke. They were able to keep Sondanos alive on the pulse for as long as possible. He basically persisted throughout that entire round completely unnoticed, and the amount of information that he was able to feed the rest of his team with his heartbeat scanner, it was just absolutely invaluable. It was the reason they were able to shut down the first plant attempt as well as the second, being able to once again pinpoint exactly where Volcanoid was trying to salvage the round from by planting that diffuser, giving Atlantic the information he needed to wide swing. It just worked out so brilliantly on the side of the Chimp Hunters. That was just not necessarily textbook because there was a lot of adaptation taking place, but it felt as if it was textbook.
Yeah, you couldn't write a book that predicted the way that they moved around that. It was just fluid, it was beautiful. You could set a couple of guidelines maybe, but they were adapting on the fly. That was very nicely done. Oh, that's an interesting placement. Okay, yeah, he's going to go against it. So, we've got ourselves a lobby and press room defense here. Obviously, 2 successful defensive rounds on the trot means we're onto a tertiary site, and they don't want to go for the splits. So, the more traditional approach here, coming out from Chimfunters, as we are going to call them from now on, of course. And I like the lineup from the defenders. I do wonder if they're lacking a bit of intel. That said, they have the deployable camera, the bulletproof camera of Importal. Usually, you're used to seeing either an Echo or a Maestro here. That's why I'm saying that. So, surprising for me to not see that. But they can probably cope without it. We'll see. Atlantic holding Visa Stairs, and they are prizing this top 4 control. Because, of course, a lot, in fact, pretty much the entirety of both sites is destructible from above. And we see quite a heavy hold of it, including castle barricades, including Aruni gates, and possibly even Banshees. Although they may be more likely to be invested downstairs. So, right now, Froggers trying to clear from admin. How well would this go?
I really don't know. Obviously, like an onion, this defensive setup on the top floor has so many ridiculous layers. By the time that the Froggers are able to brute force their way into the projector room, all of the defenders that are still lingering on the top floor will have since rotated back towards CEO. But unfortunately enough, Importal is not going to have that kind of luxury on his side. He'll be taken out relatively easily. Simple wallbang, and just like that, we have Vulcanoid immediately dictating the pace of the round. But Chimp Hunters, they're not out of the fray just yet. They're going to continue to hold on to this top floor with an iron grasp, and there we have Sandanos. He strikes, but so does Yukio in response onto Angelo. And look at this, once again, Sandanos, he's not going down without a fight whatsoever, but the Froggers, they've already caught his scent. They're on his tail. They've already begun to concuss his little bottom over there inside of the cubby, and he's been well, he's forced to rotate. I thought he was going to descend down the yellow staircases, but into the bathroom he goes. But once again, I think that the Froggers know exactly where he is, so unfortunately he's just a clay pigeon at this point. Drone is going to fly on out, and so is Flau. He'll be sent to an early grave, and there's reverse with the immediate refrag. So much action taking place on the top floor, but with 50 seconds left, it's bound to take place now on this first floor lobby as the execution needs to be set in motion.
Atlantic and Bullet sitting down on this middle floor, just waiting for the push to come through. 40 seconds means plenty of time for the attackers to try and assess this, although they are very dry of drones, and Atlantic will punish that lack of intel, finding Ukio, who is upstairs. So a nice bit of vertical play there from the Jaeger against the above player, but reversed, finds the head of Atlantic, and now Bullet has to put a bullet or two in these two fraggers. Reversed and Murph, they were so crucial to closing out that first round on the basement. Can they do it again here against the one remaining Wumai? He's got impacts in pocket that allows him some versatility, but really doesn't want to give away his position. Murph and Reversed stacking on top of each other. This is how you want to play it, but Reversed will just swing anti-chamber and catch the Wumai. Not ready for that aggression from the Zofia, and that is again another Froggers round. They finally tie it back up 2-2, the scoreline.
Yeah, it's all tied up in a neat little bow, and there's still 2 rounds left to go in this opening half to determine if we're going to move into that second half with an even scoreline, a 3-3 split, or if one of the two is going to take 2 rounds all to themselves. It's all up in the air for the time being, but once again, we already discussed going through this matchup that we didn't necessarily know if our predictions were going to be on the money, and it's really difficult to tell these two squads apart. They have been bringing a lot of really interesting stuff into Consulate overall, and especially when it came to that last round. Chimp Hunters, I absolutely adored their top floor hold. Utilizing those castle barricades and the Aruni laser gates effectively to their full potential, just creating so many barriers and so many hurdles for the attackers of the Froggers to try and overcome, which they eventually did. And yeah, it got scrappy here and there, and it was unfortunate for the Chimp Hunters that Importal was the first to go down to a wall bang of all things. If that wasn't the case, then I'm pretty sure that Chimp Hunters could have held on for just a tad bit longer, but unfortunately enough, that initial entry may have been the actual event that made or broke that entire round for Chimp Hunters, and I think it was the latter. I think it broke that round for them.
Yeah, well put. I was going to say they basically were just one step behind Froggers every step of the way. Froggers with that opening frag and the way they managed to get it with the wall bang.
It was a freebie,
was
and in
beautiful.
my opinion, it was also unnecessary on the side of Chimp Hunters.
A
It was
little bit.
unfortunate how it played out.
Yeah, I feel like in that style of hold, you do want to be ideally falling back maybe to Connector as the Aruni in that spot, but you've got to credit Froggers for the way that they pinched onto not just her, but also all the remaining top 4 roamers in that round, and they, you know, Chimp Hunters gave as good as they got. They certainly did. They refragged very well. There's some nice movement, especially from Importal on the castle to try and like stay alive on the top floor and just keep the hope going. But the immediate refrag from the rappel angle was there again. So yeah, Froggers just one step ahead all the way. We turn our attention to this round now, as we're back on the basement and Yukio's getting ready to send out that Selma charge, but Importal is equally ready with his Electroclaw in pocket, and it looks as though it will succeed in getting... No, it won't. The EMP number 2 detonates just in time to disable that Electroclaw and, in fact, destroy it as it's put right on top of a Selma charge. So, none left for him, and the breach successful for the attackers.
That is really unfortunate. I'm pretty sure Importal is going to be writing a sternly worded letter off to Ubisoft asking and begging for a Thatcher nerf, but unfortunately enough, well, he'll have to bite down his tongue for this particular round right here, as Froggers, they're already making some great strides to try to build themselves up towards this execution, but they have to deal with Atlantic, and they do so rather swiftly. We have Vulcanoid coming in with the 552 Commando and just absolutely domes the roaming Jaeger, who, by the way, a little bit of a nod to the developers behind behind Halo, he's got a score, or the score of 343. A little trivia there. 343 Industries, they're currently working on Halo Infinite, but that's besides the point. Froggers, they've been rewarded with the entry frag, and now they're feeling a lot more comfortable to try to brute force their way into the bomb site or deal with his defenders, running the risk of losing out on time.
343 is also a very aggressive soccer formation. And I hate that I just said soccer. I really hate that. This is a UK league, right? I can say football. I'm an idiot. All right. Soundownos is sitting here playing very aggressively inside of lobby on the roam, and he will be punished for it as Murph just wins that gunfight out. Him and Reverse working perfectly as a duo, but do they expect Angelo from behind? No, they don't. Takes down one. Can he get the second? Not quite, as Volcanoid will find Bullet elsewhere. And actually, that's opened up the site significantly. Immortal, the only remaining anchor. But Angelo, once again, on the flank, coming down Visa stairs this time. Do they expect this dynamism? Immortal swings and gets the breach player, but he goes down in response to Flau, who's just pushed his way all the way through site. Now, Angelo retaking through cafeteria, but Volcanoid is wise to it inside a small office and will take his head off clean. Froggers there again with another superb garage take.
That was not even necessarily the way you usually anticipate these rounds to actually take place, because, well, Froggers, they started initially, ticking off all the boxes on their checklist, getting the garage open, trying to get the diffuser down as soon as possible, but Chimp Hunters, they were forcing Froggers to take a much more different approach, because they simply just started waving around a couple of signs saying this roam presence simply cannot be ignored, and Froggers, they played directly into the hands of Chimp Hunters. But the thing was, so there's a bit of a caveat, they actually walked away from all of those engagements victorious. Chimp Hunters, they are putting a lot of emphasis on their roam games in general, but more often than not, they find themselves, suffering the opening casualties more often than not, which is, I don't even know exactly what to label it as. A bit of overcommitment, a bit of greediness, I really don't know at a certain point, but Chimp Hunters have been suffering a couple of really, really unnecessary early engagements and opening frags that basically just set the tone for the rest of the round and how it should be played. And Froggers, they're able to just utterly collapse upon the defense because they have the numbers advantage. Moving into this 6th round, this final round of the first half, Chimp Hunters are going to be revisiting the basement bomb site, but they need to do something a little bit different. I really hope that they have found the secret missing ingredient to their recipe.
It's been so close. The margins of difference in these rounds have been tiny, and just a single gunfight going one way or another really comes to define it. In that case, it was the entry being made by Murph into lobby, and there was every chance that Atlantic manages to take that one down, and then Angelo swings in. They get a clean double, nothing in response. But Reversed and Murph are just such a dynamic duo, it seems, on this Ash and Zofia, and they were really putting up the numbers against the Princesses in day one, and I think since then they've begun to hit their stride. And
Definitely.
Now I'm scared of this duo, quite honestly. They're really something, especially on the attacking half.
Indeed they are, but obviously we have got to, applaud Froggers for what they've been able to accomplish thus far this evening. They are currently sat 8th on the leaderboard, and they are sticking it to Chimp Hunters, who is at the tippy top of the standings, and they have just taken down Angelo, an operator, or the Wamai, an operator who gets exponentially better as time goes on, constantly generating pancakes out of thin air, and he's been the first to be put to rest. Froggers, they are once again on the right path to success, and they show absolutely no signs of stopping as Yukio finds a second onto Sandanas.
It was that same duo as well applying pressure onto Angelo, but a wonderful shot from Murph from the Visa window through the hatch up above, and Reverse was on Repel in the meantime. So even though they're quite far apart from each other, sort of geographically, they're still working in tandem. You see, Atlantic now has to head for the hills, as that hatch being opened is a indication that there's some pressure coming your way. So he will fall back to Crestrum and try and hold this position. Murph again working on that north side of the map with the windows, just holding firm. Doesn't want anyone to flee back through Spiral, as right now it looks as though a heavy sort of emphasis is being placed by Froggers on this kind of archive side push. They get the breach open, but then they apply pressure from both sides onto the anchors, and right now it's forcing these roamers to really make tough decisions. Do we fall back and risk the open breach, or do we take these fights? And Atlantic opts for the latter, and he will fall because of it. Once again, Froggers have this round in the palm of their hands, but so much more convincingly than in the past. They now sit up with 3-man advantage coming into the final 30 seconds.
Yeah, and the odds of this round slipping through their fingertips is really, really minimal at this point in time. 25 seconds left to go, and they only have 2 players left to power through. All of the pieces of the puzzle, they're already set. They just need the final 2 pieces of Portal and Bullet to go down, and they're not going to go down without a fight whatsoever. The trade comes instantaneously by Flau, and Murph is there to seal the deal and nail the coffin for Froggers. They're going to walk away from this first half claiming the final 2 rounds, 5 and 6, setting the scoreline at 4-2, which is an absolutely banging split for this first half on the side of the Froggers. I personally was expecting an even scoreline of 3-3 because I really couldn't tell these two teams apart, but Froggers, they have technically put their best foot forward, and it really, really starts to show.
That was an outstanding half from the Froggers. I've got to give credit to Chimp Hunters, because honestly, they didn't play that badly, and
no,
their roam was strong. It's just they lost a couple of key
Froggers
engagements.
were better.
Froggers were better, yeah. Froggers were just incredible on their takes. So that is a huge, huge boon for them, and they've got to be so confident right now moving forward. Onto their defensive half. They haven't yet won a game this season, but by God, they look like they're going to be doing it here.
Definitely. And now moving on to the defense, obviously, it's a bit of a different dynamic, but obviously they've seen what they can potentially bring out, how the defense is going to be playing out given from what they've seen in that first half on the side of the Chimp Hunters, and now the roles are reversed. It's going to be, well, once again, a bit of a different story altogether. Are the Froggers going to, well, technically run away with this entire matchup here on Consulate, or are Chimp Hunters going to gather themselves, move into the second half completely fresh face, or are they going to immediately take off the gloves and turn this into a bare-knuckle brawl? Obviously hoping the latter. I really, really want to see this matchup go all the way to overtime, because both of these two squads, they deserve maximum amount of points, but sadly we can't grant that to them unless somebody walks away with a scoreline of 5-7. Naturally, I really want to see this go all the way. These two teams have been providing so much entertainment value for us, but it's been just the battle of the titans thus far, only seeing 6 rounds.
Having a look at the bigger picture here, I don't want to overstate how well Froggers' attack half went, because look at the bans, right? Thatcher has been through. He's been influential in the speed of the takes from Froggers in that last half. The defense bans as well, very powerful, right? Valk and Mirror, hugely influential. Jackal and Capital, not so much. So I wonder whether it's just natural that we're seeing a slightly attacker-sided Consulate here, and maybe Chimp Hunters can really put up the numbers now that they're switching on to what is usually the favoured side on Consulate anyway. So this could be just
I could see that.
You know, a flash in the pan, and Chimp Hunters, they're beginning their take as an admin one, opening up that lobby doorway as well. Atlantic has done, which does limit the movement of the defenders. You want to do that on almost any take on Consulate just to prevent that kind of fluidity of defense. Atlantic, in fact, is forcing his way into lobby itself and may come into contact with Flau, who's playing on this lower half of Spiral here as the Legion. Does he have any goo mites out? We're yet to see, but Atlantic is close by. Does have drones out. Doesn't have them in pocket. No flashes either on the Buck. He's got the hard breach charge instead, so he's going to choose to hold back on this engagement for the time being. Flau getting aggressive and reacts to the Mozzie by shooting him in the head, and then Atlantic takes down the Legion. Oh my God, what a blunder from the Froggers, and that's leaving Chimp Hunters firmly in the driver's seat for the rest of the round.
Oh man. Normally I would say 2 birds with 1 stone, but that doesn't even seem appropriate. That was just so detrimental on the side of the Froggers, and credit where credit is due. That shot from Flau, that was absolutely outstanding. If that was an enemy, if that was one of the Chimp Hunters, my oh my, 10 out of 10 for reflexes, but they're gonna have to make do with what is on their silver platter in front of them. Murph finds the trade on some Donos that is gonna leave us in a 4v2 situation, and with 60 seconds left to waste for the Froggers, it's starting to look relatively tricky for them to pull this one off, as everyone on the side of the Chimp Hunters, they've already got their positions. They're setting up for the post plant, but they need to get into the bomb site, shut down Yukio, which they're making great strides to do so, but Murphy's gonna clap back. He finds both Angelo and Bullet. He's on for a triple, but Portal is gonna shut him down, leaving Yukio in a 1v2 clutch or kiss scenario with the pepperoni in hand. He finds one onto Atlantic. Now Portal is trying to stick the defuse for the time being. In 2 seconds, it's been finalized, resetting that clock back to 40 seconds, and no, Yukio goes down. It looks like it's unfortunately going to be all smooches for him. He was so darn close, but at the end of the day, Well, those earlier blunders, they really defined the rounds, and it was screaming Chimp Hunters.
Murph is built different. Did you see the shots he was hitting as the Malusi in that round?
100%.
He was so, like, he was dead. He should have been dead. He had virtually no hard cover, basically playing around the bomb chassis, and somehow got every kill that was offered up for him. Look, 10 and 4 he's going right now, 100% on the cost, which is a very important stat, but also important is that almost, I think, 2 other players on the side of Froggers, call them Fraggers, Yukio and Reverse, also on 100% KOSC, which is nuts. Like, that is basically a stat that means the contribution that you give to the round. Kills, objective plays, survivals, and trades. And they have done it every single round. So, really, really big props to them. And, yeah, like you said, if Froggers hadn't started off that round so tragically with the team kill from Flau, that would probably be in theirs.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, they came down to the wire, down to a 1v1 situation. Imagine if Froggers still had all 5 members of their roster alive and kicking. I would have been banking my bottom dollar on them through and through to take that round home all to themselves. If they had just an extra player to assist them in that 2v4 scenario, if it would have been a 4v3, or heck, even a 4v4, then they would have surely just curb stomped Chimp Hunters during that top floor execution. And Murph, once again, just going absolutely bananas with that MP5. It was unfortunate that he couldn't seal the deal. It was unfortunate that, well, Yukio couldn't seal the deal. But once again, they're going to be returning to this top floor, immediately brushing that last round off of the shoulders and seeing if they can, well, find their 5th this time around on round number 8.
Alright, admin take from Chimp Hunters. And again, CEO defense. So Flau's going to be holding up in a different position this time, no longer keen on playing that spiral staircase. He wants to put that at the back of his mind, the events of last round. Atlantic getting a drone in position, and this hasn't been spotted. It's actually hidden by some debris, so this should be really key if he just leaves that there for the take. And it survives long enough. Might have disappeared. I think it might have gone. I'm not too sure. Either way, he switched onto his second drone. No, it's still up. It is actually still up. We can tell from the HUD that
there it is.
Atlantic drone is still up. Plenty of drones as well on the side of Chimp Hunter, so they should be easy enough finding these defenders. Flower playing close by the soda machine as the pinch comes through, but he should back away fairly soon if he's sensible. And he is
sensible indeed. Angelo's going to take a bit of damage because of the fact that there are Capcan EDDs on the board, but Atlantic with a wondrous shot from down below, I guess. Not exactly sure if there were yellow pings in play, but he got a wallbang, basically using verticality to his advantage. But luckily enough for the Froggers, Vulcanoid was there with the immediate response, and he finds a second on the round, shutting down Sundanos. Now the 2 main soft breachers on the side of Chimp Hunters, they've been sent to an early 6-foot grave, and that's going to leave them in a 3v4 scenario, and they're looking a little bit worse for wear considering the fact that Froggers, all 4 last standing members, are at 100 HP, and the Chimp Hunters, well, not so much.
I mentioned the drone game so far from Chimp Hunters has been good, but that's turned on its head right now, and we can even see Vulcanoid with a drone of his own. So the Mozzie taking that off the hands of the attackers. Second Selma charge goes out as the first is caught by an ADS, but Vulcanoid with a triple kill on the round. He's on for the ace here, and he will find the C4 onto admin, but he runs into the sightline of Importal. Thatcher cleans up the Mozzie after he maybe gets a little bit too ambitious there, trying to sprint back into sight. Now, Yikes. 2 versus 3. With smokes in hand, this is still winnable for the Chimp Hunters.
It really, really is, but they're left on so very low HP. Those entry denial devices have softened the absolute hell out of them, and that was an easy cleanup for Reverse. Finds the head of Bullet, and that is going to leave in Portal with a very, very little amount of HP left in that pool for the time being, and he spots out Reverse, can't land the shots for the time being, and oh no, he's twisting and turning in the wedge, just basically drawing the entire alphabet on his mouse pad, but unfortunately enough, can't land it on Reverse. Then just like that, we have, well, Froggers correcting the mistakes, rectifying the mistakes that happened in that last round, and taking the top floor bomb site rather swiftly, and I have a sneaking suspicion that the silver bullet that won them that round altogether was a Capcan.
Interesting you say that. I was about to comment on it. He did trigger a lot of EDDs, but also
2 at the very least. I counted.
The other thing was that all of the kills that came through eventually from Froggers were either headshots or C4s. So ultimately, it didn't actually make too much difference. That being said, you affect the mental game of the attacker if they take a massive chunk of damage going into a gunfight. They know that they have to be perfect, and that can just be the sort of inhibiting factor for the attackers, knowing that they've got to be absolutely inch perfect. So it was an interesting pick. It certainly slowed the attack. They thought twice about pushing through any more doorways after the first couple of EDDs went off, but I don't think it's entirely why Froggers won that round. There was some great positioning, excellent work by Volcanoid, especially with the 3k on the ground as the Mozzie, roaming beautifully. And yeah, I feel like he can sort of take some of the credit there.
Oh, 100%. And also I do want to quickly highlight the initial entry onto one of the Froggers defenders in that round. I believe it was actually Atlantic.
Yeah, that was a nice kill.
Yeah, that was a really, really nice, well, floor bang technically, as he was down below over by the circle desk, and he shot upwards into projector room thanks to what I can only assume was Angelo's drone over by the long desk, which we did highlight at the very, very start of the round, providing some juicy yellow pings to immediately act upon. Speaking of this, well, look at this. Chimp Hunters, they're going to act upon some live intel. They're going to walk right into the open arms of Volcanoid, and they're going to give him a massive old hug. Angelo finds one as well onto Murphflau, is going to clap back ever so slightly, deals with 2 members on the side of Chimp Hunters, and this has been read into. Well, the reaction, the response from Froggers came out instantaneous, but Chimp Hunters, they're not back out just yet. Soundownos is going to continue on the successes in Portal, finally joins in on the fun, and claims the head of Reverse. Now it's all down to Yukio. Isolated over by the black car out behind the recycle bin, and unfortunately enough, well, his melon's just been spotted out by Sundanos, claims a triple kill, and it turns out that all Chimp Hunters needed to find themselves around was pure shock and awe.
Yep, they reduced that round to gunfights, and power to them. They won them. That was it. That's all they needed to do. A very swift rush in from Visa through Archives, and honestly, I thought it was going to be failed because Volcanoid's positioning was perfect to try and stop it. But he just lost the heads-up gunfight against Soundownos, and that pretty much sealed their fate. A really nice flurry from Flow as well, getting a 2k from inside cafeteria, but once again, it just wasn't enough. The power of Chimp Hunter's push was unimaginable. That was so swift, and again, it's difficult to read or analyze too deep into something that basically reduces to we want to circumvent all of the strategy, all of the utility that has been placed on the garage side, and just go for frags. Because at the end of the day, one team came out on top, and that was Chimp Hunters.
Yeah, definitely so. And I really, really got a feel for Volcanoid. As you said, he was in the prime position to deal with some of the aggression. He was the first to go down. But regardless, Froggers, they still maintain an advantage, and as such, they're going to be revisiting the basement bomb site in the hopes of potentially sitting on match point after this round has concluded. Now, well, this is technically the second time that we're seeing basement in, but it might be the first time that we see Chimp Hunters actually, sprinkle a tad bit of actual strategy into their attacks as opposed to just bum rushing the bomb site from Visa Stairs, and I can only hope that that's what we'll see this time around. Exactly what they hope to accomplish, we'll find out momentarily, but we do see a bit of a different philosophy right off the bat. They aren't bringing an ace. As opposed to that, they're actually bringing out Thermite, the good old-fashioned PBJ combination that is Portal and Bullet on the Thatcher and Thermite respectively. So they're going to potentially just open up that garage panel in record time, practically 30 seconds in, and we'll see where we go from there.
Same strategy, but different direction. And Angelo is in with the first kill. Murph is there to try and respond, but he can't hit it. Flower is still sitting inside of the site, but getting the diffuser down. And that toxic gas canister sailed too far. Angelo with another. Murph swinging. Iggy goes down. Soundownos tags in on the action, denying Angelo the ace there. But Volcanoid is now left with a hope and a dream. 1 versus 5. Diffuser's already planted. We barely saw the start of that round, and now he's got it all to do. Can't quite land the shots on Soundownos, but finally does. 26 seconds left. Can't get in Portal, who will sweep it up, and Chimp Hunters claim yet another fast attacking round onto the basement.
This is an entirely different Chimp Hunters
Yep.
compared to what we saw in the first round. They have been activated in the interim. They have definitely got their engines running, and they are performing on an entirely different level altogether. And I don't necessarily know if it's because of the fact that they are just exhibiting so much raw, unbridled aggression, doing their darnest to catch Froggers off guard at each and every single turn, but it's been working. It's been working wonders for them so far. That is now the second round in a row on Baseman that they have been able to effectively deal with the entire 5-man Froggers roster in under a minute. Now, given that they did get the diffuser down in that previous round, the point still stands. They are basically winning out attacking rounds on Consulate in record time. And Froggers, they unfortunately enough just aren't ready to receive, but they should be.
I have so few notes written down on my previous 2 rounds, and I just decided to put rush under both of them. It's just, there we go. That is how it's summed up. CEO defense, certainly the tonic here for Froggers, as they're probably feeling a little bit downbeat after those last 2 defenses. So
Probably.
yeah, this is the way to go. And I don't know. They're not even. We do have a bit of an interesting issue here. I don't think the game has been paused. I think we're just loading.
Yeah.
So it's just taking a little bit of time. Maybe UB servers aren't having the best of days. Who knows? But Ruh-roh says in Portal.
It looks like I unfortunately can't do a proper Scooby-Doo. Can you?
No, I can't.
Oh,
It looks like it's a particular player. So our observer's taking the opportunity to have a bit of a conversation with it. Yeah, Atlantic, give us a joke. Go on, Atlantic. What's blue and not very heavy? I really hope that this is broadcast friendly. Light blue. Wow. Wow, that's you hear with the alternate answer of my dad, which our observer is going to protest. Observer being a very, very good friend of Yukio's dad, apparently. I don't know. I don't know.
What is this?
Atlantic is going to be vote kicked.
Vote kick 2 out of 4.
1 out of 9 from our observer.
Okay, you might need to up that to 13 to include the entire broadcast squad. Just saying.
It's true. I mean, I vote yeah.
I vote yeah as well.
A different vote is ensuing. Vote Kiss Atlantic. Oh, this one has a lot more traction.
Casters say yes to the previous vote, but fine. If I have to smooch Atlantic, then so be it.
Yeah, a bit of polling error there, but I'm fine by it.
As am I. Yeah.
Well, Atlantic bringing that Nomad, who has made her way through the ban phase, and for a CEO attack, like we said, this can be absolutely influential because you do not need to worry about most of the runouts that the defenders are going to bring.
No.
And even the presence of a Nomad is enough to maybe dissuade the defenders from some of the more fruity runouts, shall we say, that are very, very long distance and rely on headshots to any sort of result.
Yeah.
In Portal, just droning through admin, gonna let Angelo enter here, and this is good ground, good quick ground being made by the attackers. This is ground that is being offered up by Froggers as well. No contention here, because there's that one reinforced wall, which denies a bit of a repelling angle towards the top of Visa stairs. But this is in stark contrast to the way that we have seen CEO play thus far.
Yeah, it really, really is. Typically, we've seen a lot of the defenders actually directly contest admin, but I think Froggers are doing. I think they're trying to set up a kill box. If we're to go off of Vulcanoid's positioning with the C4 in his back pocket, then he is certainly just waiting and itching for some live information before he tosses out that Nokia brick.
There's no one even
dials the.
There's no one even in sight. I feel like they're playing for the retake. They want the plant to go down.
They might be playing for the retake. They aren't necessarily living up to the full potential of the call center from hell. They've only got 2 nitro cells to work with, but yeah, they might just try to go with a guns ablaze retake once Chimp Hunters get that defuse down. Reversed, he's going to start things off by shutting down Sandanas, who has been killing it thus far with 9 to his name. That means that the man advantage, it sits with Froggers until Chimp Hunters decide to do something about it.
Losing the Ash as well in face of these Banshees is not great, but they do still have the impact of the Zofia and some Selma charges possibly spare to deal with those. shield on long, if there is. No, there is no shield on long, which is interesting from the defense. They're going to be smoking off long, and Angelo now has the opportunity to push all the way up. Going to get close to the rotate and force his way in. No, he isn't actually. Murphy's going to claim a kill. And a second for the Malusi, who just loves this position, it seems. Managing to gather a couple. Now Immortal and Atlantic left alone. And Atlantic finds Yukio. But Immortal is in a position to stick the plant down. But that Banshee is singing, and Volcanoid sends out a C4 just a little bit too shy. No, it does connect. In fact, the impact grenade at first I thought was the initial explosion. But now Atlantic is left outside in a 1 versus 4. Well, 20 seconds left and 4 defenders ahead of him. This is a horrible situation. Has to jump into a direct crossfire and will surely meet his demise. Has to whip out the pistol, finally reverse, deals that blow, and Atlantic 6.
There is so much to digest from this round right here.
Go.
And obviously, I think we obviously have to acknowledge the fact that if Murph wasn't a registered player on the side of Froggers, then they wouldn't be winning the vast majority of these rounds, because he has technically been the rock that Froggers can rely on. He is immovable, and somehow, as a rock, which by the way is an inanimate object, can still kill people rather maliciously as well with an MP5. Don't ask me about how the science works, I can't explain that to you, but back to the round at hand. I really love the approach that Chimp Hunters were trying to employ. Obviously, we established relatively early that Froggers were playing for the retake, which they were able to pull off successfully, but Chimp Hunters, they had the right idea in mind. Recognizing that there were 2 potential entry routes through Long Desk to get themselves onto the into the projector room to get that diffuser down. We had the long side over towards bathroom and the short side blocking the rotation, covered in engulfed in smoke grenades tossed out by the ace. We had Angelo start to creep and crawl his way up through Long Desk to potentially work his way in through the rotate over by the hatch and directly contest the connector side. Or potentially could have even gone even further and contest bathroom in that center office as well. But Chimp Hunters, they had all of the pieces in place to get off a successful plant. Now on the side of the Froggers, Murph went absolutely galactic. There's nothing that can stop this man whatsoever. But what was also really interesting was the placement of the Banshees. They started to wail as the diffuser was starting to go down because of its positioning and placement. The Froggers, were able to, perfectly and directly recognize and realize where the diffuser was going down and when. It was going behind the bomb chassis, so hey, we've got a couple of nitro cells to work with. Let's toss those out, and to nobody's surprise whatsoever, they were able to deal with the diffuser, and just like that, we were left in a 1v4 situation that was simply unwinnable. I think that both of these two sides in that previous round played it as perfect as possible, but Froggers' innovation and strategy was on a different level in that round.
So we turn our attention to this round, and will Froggers be able to seal the first win of the entire season? They managed to push it at least to overtime, so they will get at least another point after gathering one against Princesses week 1. Chimp Hunters, though, they are, well, they're staring down the barrel of their first defeat, in fact. So let's see how it plays out. Atlantic going to be forcing his way into Projector, opening this hatch, which has been left soft, and why not? It's bottom floor defense. You need to reinforce all the way up. I thought for a second it was lobby defense, and that's why I was surprised momentarily. But Volcanoid, she's sitting at the bottom of Visa Stairs as the Clash. Interesting adaptation here. Maybe to slow down some of that aggressive and quick style that Chimp Hunters have been going for on this defense. Same goes to the Banshees and the Legions. They've adapted. They want to stop this push. Right now, Bullet and Immortal sitting as that PB&J combo of Thermite and Thatcher, just outside the breach, prepping themselves to get it open, and so far very little has happened because we got a very turtle defense here from the Froggers.
Okay, interestingly enough, they actually sent Angelo to deal with the banded wires as opposed to just simply having out Immortal toss out a couple of EMPs, but I guess they wanted to reserve them so they can counter the active bandit tricking, which seems to be working out for the time being, and just like that, they're able to effectively bait Yukio into remaining absolutely stationary. Reverse, though, tries to take matters into his own hands and was so close, on the verge of finding 2 kills, but Angelo is going to be left in the DBNO state and can now be picked up back to 20 HP. Bullet is also going to clap and find Murph, excuse me, just like that. We are left in a 4v2 scenario with Flo and Vulcanoid left standing on the side of Froggers with 50 seconds left to waste. This is stacked against them. Chimp Hunters have everything working in their favor, and when Froggers' backs are against the wall, they can truly shine. Flau finds 2 for her troubles, but unfortunately enough, it's all down to Vulcanoid, who, yes, she maintains control of the diffuser, but she's a Clash. She has to turtle up if she wants to try to, well, edge out some lethality, and she's been backed into a corner which she has no avenue out of. And at this certain point, even while holding down mouse 1, you still need to get the kill somehow. Sundownos is getting that diffuser down, and it will be stuck. Vulcanoid now left on minimal HP, whips out the sidearm, but can't whip it out fast enough. Atlantic with the C8 is going to set her in her place, and just like that, the Chimp Hunters, they're barely able to edge out a victory on the basement bomb site, but more importantly so, they have pulled us all the way to overtime. Both of these teams have guaranteed themselves a single point, but the question is, who's going to make it 2?
So close. This game has been incredible. Honestly, really great stuff being put up by both sides. That first half of Froggers just giving as good as they got against Chimp Hunters for their attack, and now Chimp Hunters with a couple of incredible rushes that have just brought them back into the game, and some nicer, cleaner attacks either side of it. We're at 6-6, and we're in overtime, and this is, yeah, I cannot call it, honestly. It's been such a good match between the two sides. We have ourselves Froggers on the defense, first of all. So, in theory, they have a disadvantage in this half, right? They've got 2 defenses to have to put up, whereas Chimp Hunters only have 1. And this has been an attacker-favoured map. So, Froggers, this is a super duper important round for you guys. Make sure that you grab it if you can. Opting for that CEO defense, as they have done their primary site on their own defensive split, which we just saw. And the Capcan is coming back out. This is an interesting pick because it's one of those sort of pocket picks that you don't expect to work twice in a row. And I'm a little bit skeptical, honestly, of Yukio. He's got to be praying in the heart of the cards that those traps will activate at the right time. But, I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe Chimp Hunters will just not expect it.
Yeah, I think it can definitely work in Froggers' favor. Obviously, Chimp Hunters, they're gonna have to take a little bit of extra time, take a much more meticulous approach towards clearing the entire map, and, you know, doing their due diligence of checking each and every single nook and cranny to not take unnecessary and avoidable damage altogether. But I do want to point out that Froggers, they have visited this bomb site 3 times now, 4 times, with round number 13 currently underway, and they have thus far taken CEO and console office 2 out of 3 times, which means that they are technically favored in winning this bomb site. However, if they choose to move on to basement later on, that's when things get iffy, because they have visited basement 3 times and haven't walked away with a dub at all on the basement. But regardless, we're already 50 seconds in. Chimp Hunters are starting to clear out Visa, realizing that there aren't necessarily all too many roamers to worry about, since I believe everybody is on the top floor, just waiting in anticipation for the business end of the round.
Vulcanoid,
except for Vulcanoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that C4 could come into play. She's been roaming pretty hard, but this is about as deep as we've seen her at all today. So I wonder if that will be successful. Seemed a little bit kind of... I don't know how to put it, defanged on the Clash, not showing the experience on that operator, but when she's had a gun in her hand, she's clearly able, so 10 and 8 has been pretty good. I like to see Murph and Reverse as well come out on top, because they had a really good opening half, and since then a little bit quieter. Murph, like we said, had 1 round where he's just built different, but besides that, it's been a bit quiet. So, all these individuals, we're looking to step up on the side of Froggers. Which one will it be? Chimp Hunters, you've got every single one of them are capable. We know this from before, from that cafe game last week. I don't know. It could go anyway. Angelo has managed to force his way up spiral stairs, and he's got the ace by his side, Bullet. They're trying to bait out a bit of early engagement here. In Portal forcing his way up Visa stairs, but Vulcanoid is right behind as well. Portal just getting out of range, and I don't think Vulcanoid was expecting the presence so close. She's checking Visa instead. Takes out the drone. C4 will light up in Portal, but it's nothing doing yet. Still 5 versus 5. This is so tense. Soundtanos on that connector rappel, just shutting off the entirety of the defense from getting into key positions. Could be huge. If you see the Ash on the kill feed, that's his work. Don't know what's going to happen here. Angelo readying for the push. And I believe it's about to come.
Yeah, indeed it is. This round is bound to explode as Angelo is creeping his way up towards bathroom, but he is the first to fall at the hands of Murph. Now, Chimp Hunters realize that it's go time, but they're falling like flies. Reverse finds Bullet, and in response, Atlantic is going to find one for himself. Yukio, oh my goodness, that C4 was right on the money. Now, it's all down to Atlantic. The clock, it's already flashing red. It's already hit 000, and he's forced into being nothing but a clay pigeon, a stationary target, just ripe and ready for Reverse to tap on his head. And oof, that came down to the wire, but at the end of the day, Froggers, they were more than ready for that execution as it was starting to be put into motion. And Chimp Hunters, unfortunately enough for them, they had, well, the desperate times called for desperate measures. They started pushing a lot of angles unnecessarily, trying to go for a lot of high risk, high reward plays, but it backfired. And at the end of the day, Froggers' setup and the way that they played that round from start to finish was just as good as it could have gotten.
That was excellent. Honestly, another example of that kill box strategy working very well for Froggers. They've managed to find the way for CEO to work for them. And yeah, I think that honestly, the response from Chimp Hunters a little bit lax. I think that after seeing this strategy a couple of times, you've got to know that they're going to be avoiding Projector like the plague. And that time around, 100%. We did have one player in there in the name of Murph on that Malusi. But besides that, it was virtually the same strategy that we saw before. And I feel as though, especially with the Nomad in play, going for those repels on the CEO site and across bathroom and connector, and just picking apart the defense one by one, is probably a better option. Send some people up yellow stairs, maybe to force the gunfights, force them to fall back out of those key positions, and then just get the plant down in CEO. We've seen that Chimp Hunters can adapt to the defensive setup of Froggers on the basement, but they haven't done so on the top floor, and I feel like that could be their undoing here.
Definitely. The one thing that actually caught me by surprise was the way that Vulcanoid was playing those Visa staircases, because up until that particular moment where she started to ascend the Visa staircase, she did an absolutely perfect job of keeping herself a secret. Basically, you know, going a full 2 minutes completely unnoticed until she started to randomly shoot drones, thus, you know, alerting everybody on the side of the Chimp Hunters that, hey, I'm at the bottom of the Visa staircase, I'm free target up for grabs. But Chimp Hunters didn't even realize that she was there. They didn't act upon that information, so unfortunately enough, they kind of let that opportunity slip right past them. But regardless, we gotta focus on this particular round over here, because this could potentially be Chimp Hunters' last round altogether. Froggers, they're on OT match point. They're looking to close this off on the attack as well, as basement is the bomb site, and now they're busy trying to deal with Sondanos as well as Atlantic currently on the roam. They spotted out Sondanos inside of the bathroom, and he is basically stuck in there, unfortunately enough. Luckily, the buddy system is in play. Atlantic is right there to reinforce his comrade inside a bathroom. Question is, can the Chimp Hunters make this work?
My money is on the Froggers right now. Yukio will find Saldanos, and Atlantic goes down as well. Murph lands that second kill. No refrag as well onto the opener. 3 versus 5 now for the defenders. This is going to be very tough for them in Portal, trying to defend both entryways at once to the cafeteria and through the breach. He's got C4 in hand. Angelo playing close on yellow stairs, also with a C4, but the top-down control can start to come out and force the defenders out of these key positions. So, will the Mute linger? Will the Kaid linger? It wouldn't be wise unless they start fighting back vertically. These breach patches on the Thatcher going to make things difficult. In Portal sends out a Hail Mary C4, doesn't quite connect, and something comes the way of Angelo, so that's the key for him to try and take a fight. But in Portal now forced back. Bullet still playing deep inside of sight, and this is so close right now. Still smokes in the hands of the attackers. They've got so much utility to work with, so much time, and I cannot see this going any other way than a Frog's attack. But Chimp Hunters, they still have hope. Oh no.
Maybe not so much. Flau is going to find the head of Bullet, who unfortunately enough has only sat on 2 kills. A bit of a nightmarish evening for him, but Angelo, he's going to spot out Yukio. Somehow cleans up Flau as well, and now is randomly spraying into the smoke, but can't land its mark. Now it's all down to in Portal in a 1v3 scenario. Spots out Yukio, but can't land the headshots, unfortunately enough. Yukio is going to return the favor, and just like that, it took 14 rounds, not necessarily the full distance of 15 rounds, but the Froggers, they finally crossed the finish line. They have got their first dub and their first proper set of points to work with. 2 from this Playday, adding to the one they got on the first week, makes 3, and they're going to walk away from this matchup with their heads held high because that was a well-deserved dub.
Huge performances there from Reversed and Murph, who we saw do so well in that first Playday against the Princesses. Once again, they stepped up with the numbers, but you've got to give credit to the whole Froggers side there. Everyone had their moments, and you saw it at the end there. Yukio, if he'd taken a single bullet of damage from that Kaid at the end, he was a goner. We thought that he'd been down. That's why the mute was just firing blindly into the smoke, expecting a corpse to appear, but didn't happen. And yeah, it was round over, match over, and wow, what a game. We went into this game saying that it could be close, but on paper, Chimp Hunters were the favourites. They'd won both their games so far. Froggers had yet to grab one of their own, and I think just the performances that the Froggers have put through this season gave us a little bit of hope. It gave them hope. Every single match that they played so far has come down to the wire. They've had 2 overtimes now, but this is their first victory, and it has to feel so good for them. So
relieving, actually.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, up until, or for the past 2 weeks, they've been performing really outstandingly, but just unable to actually nail the coffin. And obviously, you know, putting in that much effort to not see the results that you want is relatively demoralizing. But now, you know, they can effectively kiss those sensations, and they can kiss those sensations goodbye because they've finally been able to do it. They've finally been able to, well, conclude a matchup in their favor. Once again, their performance was out of this world from both teams. Truthfully speaking, they played out of their freaking marbles. But Froggers, they have finally been able to show us their true potential this evening. They have finally been able to claim their first dub. And it was against the squad that was at the very top of the leaderboard as well. Now that is a statement and a half, because if you're able to, well, take down the team that is currently at the very top of the Badass University All-Stars League, now the rest of the other 8 participating teams have something to fear as well the next time that they're faced up against the Froggers.
And at the end of our third Playday, it leaves us with only one side that still have a perfect record under their belt, and that is Team Triton. So they'll come away very happy from this week. But with that said, that's about it. That's all we have time for. That's all the games that we have this week. And we're going to have another, 6 weeks of our regular season before the playoffs. But for tonight, that's it. It's been an absolute joy to cast these games. Both matches incredible to watch in their own right for very different reasons. And Tudors, I had so much fun casting with you. I can't wait to see you on the desk soon here again. But do you have any closing remarks just before I sign us out?
Obviously, I'd like to give out a huge shout out to the production squad. Science has been killing it on observation as always. That's basically his shtick. He just does a really great job of catching all of the action, as well as embarrassing moments for you pesky players who thought you got away with something that shouldn't have been captured on screen. Science is there to prove you wrong. Big shout out to Noah as well, our producer for the time being, who has been putting in so much work right here at BUAL for the past couple of weeks, and it really goes to show. Huge thank you to the organizers, Peak as well as Santa, for all of the work they've been able to put up, and massive thank you to the players as well for participating and giving us a lot of content for you guys to feast your retinas upon. And that's about all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. You've done the thank yous, which I absolutely would have forgotten to do, and I'm so glad that you did, because I'm very grateful for these people that do so much work behind the scenes. Thank you as well to the viewers coming back and watching this league. It's endlessly entertaining for us, and I hope it is for you too. So until next week, it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Tudors. We will see you soon.